Chapter 335. Zhao Tianlong, an inner disciple of the Black Heaven sect. He concealed his identity as a spy from the underworld of the demonic Dao. He was once a perfected nascent soul cultivator, but his current cultivation is at the mid-stage nascent soul realm. It is suspected that he used some kind of secret technique to cripple his own cultivation and cultivate a supreme technique. Chu Kuangren looked at the young disciple in front of him who was staring at him with a face full of passion, and he could not help but reveal a hint of playfulness in his eyes. Weren't the demonic path disciples afraid of him to death? How could this guy look at him with such worship? TSK, his acting skills are not bad. Chu Kuangren smiled and gave them their prizes. He then said calmly, "Work hard, all of you are the future of the Black Heaven sect." Zhao Tianlong nodded excitedly. "Yes, sect master." "Humph. The future of the Black Heaven sect? Chu Kuangren, you would never have guessed that I'm a spy from the Underworld Palace. One day, I will dig out all the secrets of the Black Heaven sect and send them back to the headquarters to kill you all. At that time, I will be the greatest hero of the demonic path." Thinking up to this point, an excited expression appeared on Zhao Tianlong's face. In the eyes of others, this was just him feeling happy that he was about to become a successor disciple. Thus, he did not think too much about it. After awarding the prizes to the few disciples, Chu Kuangren walked into the longevity hall and said to Elder Ruyan, "Give me Zhao Tianlong's information later. Once the crowd has dispersed, bring him over." Elder Ruyan was taken aback. "Is there a problem with this person?" "Yes." "Alright, I understand." Elder Ruyan nodded. Not long after, a document appeared in Chu Kuangren's hands. It was the entire process of Zhao Tianlong's entry into the sect. According to the information, Zhao Tianlong's cultivation was only at the foundation establishment realm when he first joined the sect. In just over a year, he had advanced from the foundation establishment realm to the nascent soul realm. The speed of his advancement far surpassed that of his peers. When Chu Kuangren used the Eye of Revelation to observe the other party, it showed that the other party's original cultivation level was at the nascent soul realm, but he later used some kind of secret technique to destroy his own cultivation level and start from scratch. TSK, in order to conceal his identity as a disciple of the demonic Dao, he sacrificed quite a lot. He was originally at the peak of the nascent soul stage, so it was quite fast for him to cultivate again. It's not strange for him to reach the nascent soul stage from qi condensation in a short year. The people of hell might make for a good pawn. Chu Kuangren muttered. After a while, Zhao Tianlong arrived at the longevity hall. Deep down, he was secretly delighted. Could it be that Chu Kuangren had summoned him alone to give him a special reward? Come to think of it, Chu Kuangren had managed to advance from the foundation establishment realm to the mid-nascent soul realm in just a year. No matter which orthodoxy he was in, he would be the top sky pride. It was reasonable for Chu Kuangren to value him. What was he going to reward him with? Pills, weapons, could it be some kind of saint technique? Zhao Tianlong felt a little excited just thinking about it. The newly promoted direct disciple, Zhao Tianlong, greets the sect master. "And you're welcome. May I know why the sect leader has suddenly summoned me?" "It's like this. Now that you've become a true disciple, you're now qualified to comprehend the 12 sage techniques of our Black Heaven sect. Have you decided which one you want to comprehend?" Chu Kuangren chuckled. "Sure enough, Chu Kuangren is secretly trying to promote me. He's even planning to open the back door for me and secretly give me pointers." Zhao Tianlong thought complacently. "Please give me pointers, sect leader." "Not pointers, but I'm a little curious. Do the Underworld Palace have more sage techniques or the Black Heaven sect?" As soon as he said that, Zhao Tianlong's face turned extremely pale. His hands and feet turned cold and he could not help but tremble. His initial complacency vanished in an instant and was replaced by a great fear that shrouded him from head to toe. "Sect leader, what are you talking about?" he said with a trembling voice. "What, you don't know? I thought that since you've done so much for the Underworld Palace, crippling your own cultivation and infiltrating my Black Heaven sect as a spy, the Underworld Palace would at least reward you with a sage technique. Don't tell me that the Underworld Palace is so stingy that they wouldn't even give you such a reward?" Chu Kuangren sat in the longevity hall and said playfully. After hearing his words, Zhao Tianlong's body went limp and he immediately knelt on the ground. His body could not help but tremble. He wanted to say something, but his throat seemed to be stuck, so he could not utter a single word. What? You don't want to argue anymore? Sect leader, please spare my life. Zhao Tianlong begged for mercy, but it was as if he had used up all the energy in his body. His body was covered in a layer of cold sweat. Tell me, how many times have you sent news to the Underworld Palace in the past year? What kind of news? Chu Kuangren asked calmly. Zhao Tianlong was terrified. He did not expect Chu Kuangren to see through his identity the first time he met him. Not only that, Chu Kuangren even knew that he was from the Underworld Palace and that he had crippled his own cultivation. This was not as simple as him giving himself away. He even suspected that Chu Kuangren had planted spies in the Underworld Palace, and the higher-ups at that too. Otherwise, how could Chu Kuangren know so much about him? A total of 2 times. The first was when I first arrived at the Black Heaven sect to report to the Underworld Palace, and the second was to report on the Black Heaven sect's basic situation, including the Sword Gauntlet, the Gravity Training Grounds, and other cultivation grounds. Zhao Tianlong did not dare to hide anything and told Chu Kuangren everything. Beside him, Elder Ruyan listened with a gloomy expression. Zhao Tianlong did not divulge much information, so it did not affect the Black Heaven sect too much. However, this was only because he had only been in the Black Heaven sect for slightly more than a year. What if he was given more time? Not to mention that he had already become a true disciple and was qualified to come into contact with the true secrets of the Black Heaven sect. For example, sage techniques, spiritual rice farming, the marrow cleansing pool, and so on. If these were to spread, Elder Ruyan could not imagine how much of an impact it would have on the Black Heaven sect. Sect leader, it's my fault for letting a spy infiltrate the Black Heaven sect. Please punish me, sect leader. Elder Ruyan said guiltily. Well, you can't be blamed for this. The Underworld Palace is cunning and cunning. Since that person destroyed his own cultivation base, it's only natural that you couldn't detect it. Just pay more attention from now on, Chu Kuangren said. If not for his eye of revelation, he would not have noticed it either. Sect leader, what should we do about Zhao Tianlong? A cold glint flashed across Elder Ruyan's eyes. When Zhao Tianlong heard that, he quickly kowtowed and begged for mercy. Please spare my life, sect leader. I will definitely give my all for the Black Heaven sect in the future. I swear that I will never contact the underworld again. No, I want you to continue being a spy. Chu Kuangren suddenly uttered something shocking. Astonished expressions appeared on the faces of Elder Ruyan and Zhao Tianlong. I want you to continue being a spy. Of course, we'll decide what information you send back to the Underworld Palace. Chu Kuangren smiled. Elder Ruyan's eyes lit up when she heard that. She understood what Chu Kuangren meant. The Underworld Palace had planted a spy in the Black Heaven sect, but the Black Heaven sect had used that spy to send false information to the Underworld Palace to mislead them. What a great idea, sect leader. Elder Ruyan praised. Zhao Tianlong breathed a sigh of relief when he heard that. Was it not just a spy from the Underworld Palace becoming a spy for the Black Heaven sect? To him, it was nothing. As long as he could survive. Chapter 336. Then, Chu Kuangren took out some poison that he had refined in his spare time and fed it to Zhao Tianlong. With that, the spy was completely under his control. The fact that the Underworld Palace had planted spies in the Black Heaven sect had taught Elder Ruyan and the others a lesson. Hence, they conducted a thorough investigation of their disciples, and with the help of Chu Kuangren's eye of revelation, they managed to find a few of them. However, compared to Zhao Tianlong, these disciples were only outer and inner disciples, so they did not have much access to the sect's resources. Chu Kuangren did not let anyone deal with these people. Instead, he ordered Elder Ruyan to keep an eye on them, waiting for them to come in handy. Time passed. A few days had passed. On this day, Elder Ruyan went to find Chu Kuangren with a serious expression. Sect leader, the Black Heaven sect's affiliated sects along the coast were attacked yesterday. They suffered heavy casualties, Elder Ruyan said. Who did it? The Scaled Tribe. They said that if you don't hand over the trident halberd and the emperor-grade treasures from the unnamed island, they will kill 100,000 people every day until all the affiliated sects of the Black Heaven sect are wiped out. Elder Ruyan gritted her teeth and said. Upon hearing that, Chu Kuangren took a deep breath, and a cold glint flashed across his eyes. Where are the scaled tribe now? The coastal region, the snowstorm sect. Got it. I'll go there myself, Chu Kuangren said. He walked out of the longevity hall, and his figure turned into a stream of light and disappeared. The news of the scaled tribe provoking the Black Heaven sect spread like wildfire, and more than half of the orthodoxies in Firmament Star had received the news. Everyone was waiting to see what would happen. The scaled tribe was the overlord of the ocean. Although their resources could not be compared to the entire human race, they were still more powerful than any sage orthodoxy. After so many years in the ocean, countless sages had been born. Chu Kuangren was not a sage, but he was more powerful than one. In just a few years, he had risen with an unstoppable momentum, becoming the most dazzling legend in Firmament Star for hundreds of thousands of years. The battle between the two must be extraordinary. Azure Dragon Domain, the coastal region of the Snowstorm sect. The corpses of more than 100,000 Snowstorm sect disciples and civilians were piled on the coast, emitting a strong stench of blood. Beside the countless corpses, there were several huge, upright sea beasts that were constantly devouring these corpses. Not far away, the upper echelon elders and sect leader of the Snowwind sect were all shackled and locked in cages. They watched this scene with bloodshot eyes. Look, this is the consequence of going against the scaled tribe. At the side of the cage, a scaled tribe general in azure armor smiled coldly and said, "Don't worry, it won't just be the Snowstorm sect. As long as Chu Kuangren doesn't hand over the item, we'll continue to kill until we've wiped out all of the Black Heaven sect's affiliated forces. I'd like to see how long Chu Kuangren can endure this. Sect leader will never let you off," the Snowwind sect leader said with his eyes wide open. That would be great. I'd like to see what kind of storm Chu Kuangren can stir up. Our scaled tribe is a big clan, and we live deep in the ocean. No matter how strong Chu Kuangren is, do you think he can dive into the ocean to settle the score with us? The seabed is the scaled tribe's territory. The scaled tribe general laughed out loud. Compared to the other sage orthodoxies of the four domains, the scaled tribe was not afraid of Chu Kuangren at all. To them, so what if Chu Kuangren was powerful? He was still a land creature after all, and the scaled tribe lived deep in the ocean. In the ocean, no one could do anything to the scaled tribe. A night passed. The scaled tribe general looked at the rising sun and sneered. It's the second day, and Chu Kuangren still hasn't shown up. Go to the Snowwind sect's territory and capture another 100,000 people to feed to the oceanic beasts. Yes. A group of scaled tribe soldiers rushed towards the city not far away. The Snowwind sect leader and the others who witnessed this scene yelled, "Stop! Come at us if you have the guts." The scaled tribe general said, "That won't do. You're the Snowwind sect leader and elders. I want you to watch how we kill the people and disciples that you've been protecting. Just like Chu Kuangren. If he doesn't hand over the item, the scaled tribe will watch how his affiliated forces are slaughtered." B*****. The Snowwind sect leader roared, but there was nothing he could do. A large group of scaled tribe soldiers rushed towards the city. Most of these scaled tribe soldiers were covered in scales of different colors, and some even had horns and other organs. They looked extremely ferocious. The people in the city could not help but fall into despair as they looked at the overwhelming number of scaled tribe soldiers. Some of the cultivators gritted their teeth and stepped up to the city walls in an attempt to protect the people in the city. However, their strength was too insignificant in the face of the tens of thousands of scaled tribe soldiers. Well, an infant in the arms of a woman seemed to have sensed something and started to cry. The woman could not help but hug the infant tighter. Someone, please save us." The scaled tribe soldiers had arrived at the city walls and were about to enter the city. The cultivators on the city walls were also prepared to fight to the death. At that moment, a purple sword ray suddenly appeared from afar. The sword ray was as vast as a torrent, covering the entire sky. The sword ray swept across the sky above countless people and rushed into the scaled tribe army. Under the attack of this sword ray, the scaled tribe soldiers, be it nascent soul or paradise realm cultivators, or even the battle monarch realm cultivators, could not resist it at all. They were instantly turned into blood mist and exploded. In just an instant, tens of thousands of scaled tribe soldiers had vanished into thin air, never to be seen again. Far away, amidst the surging sea of clouds, a deafening roar was heard. A large patch of red light floated and dyed the sky red. A blood-red godly phoenix soared into the sky, emitting waves of auspicious chi. On top of the godly phoenix, there was an otherworldly figure dressed in a wide-sleeved white robe with a magnificent longsword strapped to his waist. The godly phoenix in the sea of clouds looked like a deity. It's the sect leader. It's the Black Heaven sect's sect leader, Chu Kuangren. He's here, he's here. We're saved. Someone recognized Chu Kuangren and could not help but cheer. The woman hugged the infant and cried tears of joy. The cultivators breathed a sigh of relief. Not far away, a few sea beasts on the shore sensed the godly phoenix's aura and let out a low growl of agitation. The scaled tribe great general's eyes narrowed as he said solemnly, "So he's Chu Kuangren? His aura is extraordinary indeed." Chu Kuangren flew to the sky above the city. With Daoist rhymes emanating from his body, he cast the spring breeze healing technique and a gust of wind swept across the entire city. Some of the cultivators and citizens who were injured in the scaled tribe's invasion had recovered. They looked at Chu Kuangren with fervent gazes as if they were devout believers who had met their god. Once that was done, Chu Kuangren rode the godly phoenix to the scaled tribe great general and said, "Let them go and accept your death. Ha, you're indeed the strongest sky pride of the continent. You're indeed extraordinary. We can let them go if you hand over the item, and the scaled tribe will never invade again." The scaled tribe great general laughed. "You have no right to negotiate with me." "Hey, is that so?" The scaled tribe great general sneered and waved his hand. Then, a few scaled tribe soldiers beside him walked towards the snowstorm sect leader and the others. "If you don't agree, I'll kill them right now. Try me," Chu Kuangren said calmly. An invisible force field spread out with him as the center. It was his battle monarch domain. Under the domain, the scaled tribe soldiers who were near the snowstorm sect leader and the elders were all pressed to the ground, unable to move. "What?" The scaled tribe great general's expression changed. In a flash, he charged towards the snowstorm sect leader and the others despite the pressure from the battle monarch domain. He wanted to capture them as hostages to force Chu Kuangren into submission. However, a ray of light suddenly flashed past him and arrived in front of him. Then, a pale palm enlarged in front of him and strangled him with an unstoppable force. "I told you, you have no right to negotiate." Chapter 337. I've said it before. You have no right to negotiate with me. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. His mountain-like fingers gripped the scaled tribe great general's neck, rendering him immobile. His eyes were filled with horror as he stared at Chu Kuangren. After all, he was also an honorable supreme, yet he did not even have the ability to resist Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren's strength was far beyond his imagination. He knew he was no match for Chu Kuangren, but he did not expect to be defeated so badly. "Die!" Chu Kuangren lifted the scaled tribe great general with one hand. His eyes flashed, and with a slight force from his fingers, a terrifying force erupted. With a loud bang, the scaled tribe general exploded into a cloud of blood mist. It was as if he could crush an honorable supreme like a child. Then he unleashed a palm attack, and a few sea beasts on the shore were effortlessly smashed into pieces. Chu Kuangren's unparalleled strength shocked the scaled tribe. Meanwhile, the godly phoenix Lil Red hovered in the air and spat out balls of fire onto the scaled tribe soldiers, burning them into ashes. When Chu Kuangren came to the side of the cage, he formed a sword finger and several surges of sword chi shot out, tearing the cage apart. The shackles on the snowstorm sect leader and the others were also shattered one by one, allowing them to regain their freedom. "Thank you, sect leader," the snowstorm sect leader said with a fist salute. He then looked at the hundreds of thousands of corpses on the shore with anger and sorrow in his eyes. Chu Kuangren said, "I'll take care of the scaled tribe. I'll leave this to you guys. I'll have the godly phoenix stay behind to assist you. Also, the Black Heaven sect will send some people here." "Yes, thank you, sect leader." "You're welcome." Chu Kuangren stared at the raging waves of the sea with a cold glint in his eyes. He grabbed a scaled tribe soldier who was still alive and said coldly, "Bring me to the scaled tribe. I want to see your king." The scaled tribe soldier did not dare to resist and nodded in fear. At the bottom of the sea, in a magnificent palace, the scaled tribe was holding a banquet. Everyone who attended the banquet were famous generals of the scaled tribe. There were even some chiefs of the scaled tribe. Just like the human race, the scaled tribe also had many branches. The most powerful scaled tribe was currently in power, the Golden Scaled Tribe. The Golden Scaled Tribe became the royal family of the Scaled Tribe and got the surname Bei Ming. The current king of the Scaled Tribe was named North Sea Peng. At the banquet, mermaids danced, clam spirits served wine, and the guests chatted merrily. It was a flourishing scene. At this moment, a Scaled Tribe member suddenly rushed in, terrified. Reporting to the king, "General Bai Lin is dead." The Scaled Tribe members were shocked. General Bai Lin was a famous general among the Scaled Tribe. His sudden death had shocked many of the Scaled Tribe members. "Okay, I got it." The Scaled King was not surprised at all. Instead, he said, "Have Wang Lin's 13 generals get ready and continue to attack the Black Heaven sect's affiliated forces along the coast. As long as Chu Kuangren doesn't hand over the trident halberd and the emperor-grade treasures, kill him until he hands them over." Hearing this, many Scaled Tribe members looked at each other. One of the Scaled Tribe elders stood up and said, "My king, isn't it a little too risky to fight Chu Kuangren? Adventure? Heh, no matter how powerful that Chu Kuangren is, do you think he would dare to dive deep into the ocean and cause trouble in our Scaled Tribe's territory?" The Scaled King said, amused. He was confident that he would win this battle. The Scaled Tribe lived deep in the ocean. Even if a sage were to come here, their combat strength would be limited by half. The Scaled Tribe members could unleash 100% of their strength in the ocean. Since ancient times, no one had ever been able to fight the Scaled Tribe underwater. The Scaled Tribe members pondered for a while and agreed that it made sense. The banquet continued. General Bai Lin's death seemed to be an insignificant interlude to the crowd. After a brief discussion, it was over. Just as everyone was laughing and chatting, boom! The entire palace suddenly shook violently. What's going on? Why would there be such a sudden tremor? Could it be an earthquake? That's impossible. This hasn't happened in so many years. Why would there be an earthquake all of a sudden? Send someone to check it out. The Scaled Tribe members looked around frantically. At this moment, an elder suddenly appeared beside the Scaled King. The Scaled King was surprised to see this elder. "Elder, why are you here?" This elder was an elder of the Scaled Tribe Palace. He was also a sage. He stared out of the palace with an unfathomable gaze. "Order all Scaled Tribe cultivators below the honorable realm to leave the palace immediately. As for the others, stay here and help me fend off the enemy." "Who's here?" The Scaled King was a little confused. "Do I need to tell you who you've offended?" The Scaled Tribe elder glanced at the Scaled King and said calmly. The Scaled King's eyes narrowed. Could it be Chu Kuangren? Why would he dare to come to the deep ocean? There are rumors in the outside world that the Black Heaven sect leader is a lunatic who can't be judged by common sense. It's not surprising that he would do anything, the Scaled Tribe elder said. The Scaled King was shocked at first, but then he sneered. Since he's here, that's good news. No one is better than the Scaled Tribe when it comes to fighting in the deep ocean. Today, I'll make sure this person doesn't leave this place alive. The Scaled Tribe elder beside him also had a cold look in his eyes. At this moment, a Scaled Tribe soldier's corpse was tossed into the banquet hall. Outside the scaled tribe palace, a white-robed figure descended gracefully. There seemed to be an invisible barrier around his body that isolated the surrounding seawater from Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren was not affected in the slightest. It was the treasure that Chu Kuangren had obtained not long ago, the water evasion pearl. Chu Kuangren arrived at the magnificent scaled tribe palace. Sword-based Daoist rhymes circulated around his body, emanating an awe-inspiring aura. "Human, what are you doing here?" one of the scaled tribe generals yelled. "I'm here to be a fisherman and kill a few fishes," Chu Kuangren said indifferently. An incredibly sharp sword chi gushed out from his body, causing the surrounding seawater to rumble. The scaled tribe general who asked the question was instantly torn apart by the sword chi. The majestic sword chi swept out and filled half of the palace. The entire palace was shrouded in the threat of death. Wherever the sword chi went, the scaled tribe members were all killed. Their blood mixed with the seawater and instantly dyed the ocean within a 10-kilometer radius red. Countless scaled tribe members fled in terror. "Chu Kuangren, how dare you!" the scaled king roared. Then, a black trident appeared in his hand and he hurled it at Chu Kuangren. The trident carried a majestic torrent of water as if it was going to destroy everything in its path. It pierced through Chu Kuangren's barrier. The trident's power was so terrifying that it pierced through the barrier around Chu Kuangren. However, half of the torrent of water was dispelled. The remaining energy did not affect Chu Kuangren at all. He raised his hand to grab the trident, and the domineering trident was caught in his grip. It could no longer move forward. "The ones who are presumptuous are the scaled tribe." Chu Kuangren raised his hand and tossed the trident back. An even more terrifying and violent force was added to it. Upon seeing this, the scaled king stretched out his hand to grab the trident flying towards him. However, the force contained in the trident sent him flying. The trident slid out of his hand and finally pierced through his shoulder, pinning him to a pillar in the palace. Chapter 338. Clang. The trident pierced into one of the palace's pillars, creating a loud clanging sound. Meanwhile, the scaled king, who was pinned to the pillar by Chu Kuangren, stared at Chu Kuangren with bloodshot eyes. A sense of humiliation welled up within him. After all, he was the king of the scaled tribe. The king that ruled over billions of scaled tribe members. Yet now, he was pinned to a pillar by Chu Kuangren in the royal palace under the watchful eyes of the public. How humiliating was that? B*****. "Chu Kuangren, I'm going to kill you. I must kill you," the scaled king roared in rage. Not far away, the scaled tribe elder's expression changed as he stared at Chu Kuangren gravely. After all, the scaled king was also a sage. In terms of combat strength, he was no weaker than the elder, yet he was pinned to the pillar by Chu Kuangren. Was Chu Kuangren really below the level of a sage? The same thought that all the sages who had seen Chu Kuangren before came to his mind. Chu Kuangren said, "The scaled tribe has invaded my Black Heaven sect and killed more than 100,000 people from my affiliated forces. The number of other casualties is uncountable. I shall settle this score with you today." Chu Kuangren, don't get too full of yourself. This is the deep ocean, not a place where you can do whatever you want, the scaled tribe elder said. Then he channeled the torrential force around him, and a majestic Daoist rhyme exploded towards Chu Kuangren. However, Chu Kuangren was not afraid at all. He swung the long sword in his hand and shattered the torrential force along with the Daoist rhyme. Even before the sword chi's power dissipated, it was already closing in on the scaled tribe elder. The violent energy made the scaled tribe elder's eyelids twitch. He then channeled his spiritual power and unleashed another palm attack. However, the terrifying sword chi still sent him flying hundreds of feet away. He crashed into the palace wall and spat out a mouthful of blood. How can this be? How can he have such combat strength? The scaled tribe elder was shocked and confused at the same time. After all, they were in the deep ocean. Even a human sage might not be able to unleash half of his combat strength in such an environment. Yet Chu Kuangren still had such terrifying strength. In fact, it was even more powerful than what he displayed on the unnamed island. Scaled tribe soldiers, kill him. At this moment, the Scaled King, who had just pulled out the trident from the pillar, let out a loud roar. All the soldiers in the palace moved out at the same time. Not long after, the Scaled tribe army, which numbered in the millions or even tens of millions, had surrounded Chu Kuangren in a tight circle. Then, the Scaled King took out something that looked like a horn and blew it. The sound of the horn echoed in the sea. All the sea beasts within a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles rushed toward the palace as if they had been summoned. Chu Kuangren, you must die here today. The Scaled King glared at Chu Kuangren with intense hatred in his eyes. When Chu Kuangren saw that, he sneered and said, "It's still too early to tell who will emerge victorious. Today, I shall see for myself what you so-called rulers of the ocean are capable of." As soon as he finished speaking, he swung his sword in all directions. The violent sword chi instantly reaped the lives of a large number of Scaled tribe soldiers. Right now, he was a supreme honorable being, and his battle prowess was a level higher than when he was on the Nameless Island. Although he was now in the deep sea with the water evasion pearl, he could still unleash half of his battle prowess. Chu Kuangren held the Descendant Self-Sword in his hand. Wherever his sword chi went, countless Scaled tribe soldiers would perish under his sword. In just a short while, hundreds of thousands of Scaled tribe members had lost their lives, and their blood dyed the ocean red. Kill them all. Chu Kuangren, you're in the deep sea now. Even if you have a way to maintain your battle prowess, you're still one man with limited stamina. Let's see how you're going to outlast my endless Scaled tribe army. The Scaled King roared, his eyes bloodshot. He was willing to sacrifice the lives of countless Scaled tribe soldiers just to kill Chu Kuangren. It was not just to regain his pride. It was also to reclaim the trident in Chu Kuangren's hand and the emperor-grade treasure that he had obtained on the Nameless Island. Come on, let's see who's going to win. Chu Kuangren faced the endless Scaled tribe army with a cold expression. He waved the Descendant Self-Sword in his hand, and majestic sword chi gushed out continuously. Eventually, he felt that this was too slow, so he took out the lingering Song Guqin. Chu Kuangren sat cross-legged in the middle of the army and plucked the strings with all 10 fingers. The terrifying Guqin Daoist rhymes caused the ocean to tumble and spread in all directions. The first 4 movements of the 8 celestial demonic chords were played consecutively. Although its power was slightly reduced in the ocean, it was still not something that the Scaled tribe soldiers could withstand. Wherever the Guqin music passed, the Scaled tribe soldiers exploded one after another. 30 kilometers. The maximum range of his Guqin music attack is 30 kilometers. Everyone, retreat to 30 kilometers away and attack from afar. At that moment, one of the Scaled tribe generals noticed the attack range of Chu Kuangren's Guqin music and began to arrange his troops. Countless Scaled tribe soldiers retreated to 30 kilometers away, took out rows of specially made bows and arrows, and shot them at Chu Kuangren. However, Chu Kuangren remained calm despite the incoming rain of arrows. He plucked the Guqin strings with his fingers, and a Guqin music spread out. The rain of arrows was instantly dispersed by the Guqin music. It did not hurt Chu Kuangren at all. 30 kilometers? My Guqin music is not that weak. Chu Kuangren said calmly. With 10 fingers plucking, the 5th movement, the 6th movement, and the 7th movement, Earthly Reverberation, were played consecutively. The terrifying Guqin music Daoist rhymes instantly increased, and the entire ocean became turbulent and turbulent. The Scaled tribe soldiers who had retreated to 30 kilometers away were once again attacked by the Guqin music, and a large number of them were killed or injured. D****, this guy is using Guqin music at such a fast rate. Don't fight him head-on. Keep retreating and keep attacking from afar to force him to use up his spiritual power. The Scaled King said loudly. Chu Kuangren sneered at his words. Is this the demeanor of a ruler? Letting your subordinates die for you? Fight for me, die for me, this is the fate of every Scaled tribe member. The Scaled King said loudly, the brave Scaled tribe members are never afraid of battle. We live for battle and we die for battle. Kill. Countless Scaled tribe soldiers roared with bloodshot eyes. Chu Kuangren noticed that when the scaled king shouted, a formless Daoist rhyme emanated from his body. It affected the scaled tribe soldiers and made them fearless. Oh, a technique that bewitches the human mind. Interesting. A hint of surprise flashed across Chu Kuangren's eyes as he activated his Eye of Revelation. He realized that the Scaled King was able to bewitch millions of Scaled tribe soldiers not only because of his bewitching technique, but also because of his charisma as the ruler of the Scaled tribe. With these two factors working together, the Scaled tribe soldiers became fearless, allowing them to unleash extraordinary combat strength. Then I shall kill you first. Chu Kuangren's figure turned into a stream of light and dashed towards the Scaled King. He wanted to capture the leader first. However, he did not expect a blue barrier to suddenly appear around the Scaled King, blocking his path. A female Scaled tribe member slowly walked out from behind the Scaled King. Her Daoist rhyme was extremely powerful, and it was no weaker than a great sage's. Chapter 339. You're not strong enough to break my cerulean aqua canopy. The woman from the scaled race said faintly with a proud look on her cold face. She was a great sage of the scaled race. Chu Kuangren smirked at that. How hard can it be to break your aqua canopy? Chu Kuangren's body suddenly emitted a blood-red flame, and his aura was instantly stabilized. With a slash of his sword, a dazzling sword ray instantly erupted, emitting a strong emperor's aura. The sword chi instantly tore through the cerulean aqua canopy. The female scaled tribe great sage's expression changed. Not good. She grabbed the scaled king and quickly retreated. However, the sword light followed him like a shadow, chasing him relentlessly. D***minute, water bloom. The scaled tribe great sage roared and unleashed a palm attack. Rays of light gathered in her palm before she blasted it towards the sword chi. With a loud explosion, the Daoist rhymes formed by the intertwining sword chi and palm chi spread outwards. The water around them tumbled, and the scaled king was forced to retreat by hundreds of meters. The scaled tribe great sage was also forced to retreat by hundreds of meters with a bloody wound on her palm. She looked at Chu Kuangren in fear. What a terrifying sword chi! And that blood-red flame, could it be the legendary 9 Deaths blazing blood art? How dare he use such a technique? What the lunatic? The scaled tribe great sage muttered. Elder Bei Mingfeng, are you all right? The scaled king asked. I'm fine, but this person's combat strength is extraordinary. You're no match for him, scaled king. Please retreat, Bei Mingfeng said solemnly. Rest assured, elder. The other elders are already on their way. All we need to do is delay him for a while. This person's combat strength may be strong, but he's single-handedly going against an entire army and using a forbidden technique like the 9 Deaths blazing blood art. He'll definitely die today. The scaled king said coldly. He had no intention of retreating, and he looked like he had already won. Bei Mingfeng pondered for a while and nodded in agreement. She looked at Chu Kuangren as if she was looking at a dead man. Single-handedly going against the entire scaled tribe. Only an idiot would do such a thing. Chu Kuangren's plan to capture the ringleader was thwarted by Bei Mingfeng, and the million-strong army had already surrounded them. Not only that, there were countless ferocious sea beasts coming from afar. Their combat strength was not any weaker than the 10 million scaled tribe army. Chu Kuangren could not help but laugh when he saw that. An army against a sea beast. What a unique battle. I would like to see how many more soldiers and sea beasts the scaled tribe has left for me to slaughter. His black hair fluttered in the wind as he plucked the zither strings with his fingers. Waves of majestic zither music Daoist rhymes spread out continuously, shaking the ocean for thousands of miles. The scaled tribe soldiers and the sea beasts were losing their lives one after another. The intensity of the battle had already dyed the seawater red. Sword chi transformation. As if he felt that he was still too slow, surges of sword chi shot out from Chu Kuangren's body and transformed into clones that charged in all directions. Sword chi clone, 8 celestial demonic chords. In Chu Kuangren's hands, the 2 emperor techniques were unleashed to their fullest potential. They were the most terrifying offensive weapons in the world. The scaled tribe army and the oceanic beasts were being massacred by such an attack. On the other hand, Chu Kuangren was standing alone in the sea of blood. His white robe was so blindingly white that it was cruel to look at it. He had killed so many people, but his white robe was still spotless and his appearance was still otherworldly. It was as if killing a bunch of ants was not enough to make him feel the slightest bit of pity. Demon. This guy must be a demon. He's too scary. Don't kill me, don't kill me. Finally, under Chu Kuangren's merciless slaughter, many soldiers had broken down. They dropped their weapons and began to flee. Even the Scaled King's bewitching technique was useless against them. Fear was the most primal instinct. The fear that Chu Kuangren instilled in them had far surpassed the effect of the Scaled King's technique. Is this guy really human? Why is he still alive after using the 9 Deaths blazing blood art for so long? The Scaled King and Bei Mingfang were also dumbfounded by what they saw. It was too terrifying. It was too horrifying. For Chu Kuangren to be able to fight to such an extent in the deep sea, the strength that he had shown them was too terrifying. At that moment, even the Scaled King was feeling a little regretful. Perhaps he should not have provoked this guy in the first place. However, it was useless to think about that now. With the enemy before him, he had no way out. Boom! At that moment, a horrifying surge of Daoist rhyme erupted from afar. A palm chi rolled up the water current and struck towards Chu Kuangren. Another sage. Chu Kuangren sneered. Then, he plucked the guqin strings with his fingers and the third movement of the 8 celestial demonic chords, the melodious chime erupted, shattering the palm chi. When the two forces collided, Chu Kuangren was pushed back a few meters. Behind him, another surge of Daoist rhyme erupted. Chu Kuangren held the guqin in his left hand and swung the sword in his right. With a clanging sound, the Kunwu sword slashed on the other blue sword. The collision between the two sword edges burst out streams of sword chi, which streaked across the water and exploded at the bottom of the sea, forming bubbles and then disappearing. Chu Kuangren looked at the sword-wielding figure. It was a handsome middle-aged scaled tribe man with a few golden scales on his cheeks. His body surged with a vast surge of sword-based Daoist rhyme. His sword Dao was far beyond any swordsman that Chu Kuangren had ever met. Even the Tempest Mountain, the Linghu clan, or even the Black Heaven sect might not be able to find such a swordsman. After the two swords collided, they were both pushed back. The Scaled Tribe's heritage is indeed extraordinary. Chu Kuangren was secretly surprised. After he had blocked the attacks from the two sages, a few more Scaled Tribe members had appeared around him. Each of them was a sage, and each of them alone could rival a 1,000,000-strong Scaled Tribe army. A smile appeared on Chu Kuangren's face as he watched. The real show is about to begin. The Scaled Tribe army and the oceanic beasts were merely used by the Scaled King to delay Chu Kuangren. These sages were the true means to kill him. Chu Kuangren, how dare you invade our Scaled Tribe and commit such a heinous crime? You deserve to die 1,000 times over. One of the sages questioned Chu Kuangren furiously as he looked at the corpses around him and the blood-stained seawater. Chu Kuangren could not help but laugh when he heard that. Heinous crime? Deserve to die 1,000 times over? Then what have the Black Heaven sect's people along the coastline done wrong? Now you're telling me that I deserve to die 1,000 times over? Don't you think that's ridiculous? You stole the Scaled Tribe's treasure, the Sea King's halberd. That's the reason they died. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself, the sect leader. The trident was lost to me by your Scaled Tribe's young master. If that's the reason they died, then I have nothing else to say. I can only apologize to them with the blood of the Scaled Tribe. For every person the Scaled Tribe killed, I'll kill 1,000 of your people. This time, the Black Heaven sect has lost more than 100,000 people, and the ones I've just killed are far from enough. Chapter 340. 10 times more was not enough. Even 100 times more was not enough. What Chu Kuangren wanted was 1,000 times more. If you kill one of my people, I'll kill 1,000 of your people. Chu Kuangren's words made the Scaled Tribe's sages tremble in anger. Their Daoist rhymes circulated violently as they glared at Chu Kuangren, wishing they could cut him into 1,000 pieces. 1,000 lives for a single life. Chu Kuangren, once we arrive, you won't be able to kill a single one of us. One of the sages said angrily as he unleashed a palm attack towards Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren plucked the guqin strings, and a terrifying guqin music erupted. The guqin music and palm chi collided, and both sides were pushed back. The other scaled tribe sages had also made their moves. There were 7 scaled tribe sages present. Chu Kuangren activated his Eye of Revelation and scanned them one by one. He noticed that there were 2 5-step sages, 3 7-step sages, and the remaining 2 were great sages. Those 2 great sages were Bei Mingfang and the sword-wielding middle-aged scaled tribe sage called Bei Minghuan. These 2 were the biggest threats to Chu Kuangren. Bei Minghuan, in particular, had reached the 3-step great sage level, which was even stronger than the first prefect of the first city. In the past, such a lineup would have been troublesome to deal with. Unfortunately, I'm no longer the same as before. Chu Kuangren thought to himself. Ever since he became an honorable supreme, it was no longer difficult for him to deal with a great sage. Even the 7 of them could not suppress him. After a fierce battle, Chu Kuangren did not suffer any injuries. Instead, he killed one of the 7 sages with his sword. Eminent. How can he not have any side effects after using the 9 deaths blazing blood art for so long? The Scaled King was shocked as he watched Chu Kuangren fight the 7 scaled tribe sages. He did not expect Chu Kuangren to have such combat strength in the deep ocean. This won't do. Even the sages can't defeat Chu Kuangren. It looks like I'll have to use that item now. The Scaled King thought to himself. Then, his figure flashed and disappeared into the depths of the royal palace. In the deep ocean, Chu Kuangren was battling the remaining 6 sages. All sorts of Daoist rhymes intertwined and collided in the void. Chu Kuangren was sent flying by Bei Minghuan's attack, but after he regained his balance, he suddenly pointed a finger at a sage beside him. Heart-piercing finger. It was Chu Kuangren's first time unleashing such an emperor technique, so the sage before him was caught off guard. He felt his Daoist core tremble, and he was momentarily dazed. Then, a majestic spiritual power and Daoist rhyme formed a black finger that smashed onto the sage's chest. With a bang, even the body of a sage could not withstand such a terrifying force. His chest collapsed instantly, and all the muscles and bones in his body exploded. A sage was forcefully killed by this one finger. What? What cultivation method is this? Emperor Aura. This is also an emperor art. Doppelganger monarch art, sword monarch art, zither monarch art. Including this finger, he has already executed a total of 4 monarch arts. Why does this guy have so many monarch arts? Where did he come from? All the sages were dumbfounded. In this age of chaos, an emperor technique was too rare. Even the scaled tribe, which had a rich heritage, only possessed an incomplete emperor scripture. Yet, Chu Kuangren possessed several emperor techniques. What kind of opportunity of fortune and luck did he have to do that? The scaled tribe sages were extremely shocked. He has used so many emperor techniques consecutively, and the amount of spiritual power he has consumed is unimaginable. He won't last long. Bei Mingfang said. At that, Chu Kuangren sneered. If the sages of the 4 domains were here, they would never say something like that. What do you mean? What I mean is that the scaled tribe is really stupid. How could you not do any intelligence work before dealing with someone? Chu Kuangren said. Then, as he raised his hand, an extremely terrifying suction force erupted from his palm. The corpses around him turned into countless fleshly essences and surged towards him like rivers flowing into the sea. Chu Kuangren's spiritual power, which had been depleted by half, was rapidly recovering. The few sages had tried their best to make Chu Kuangren's weakened aura recover at a rapid pace. Absorbing blood and flesh essences into spiritual power? What kind of weird technique is this? Aside from emperor techniques, how could he have such a strange technique? Quick, stop him. Bei Mingfang's expression changed. The other sages immediately took action. A few Daoist rhymes circulated and attacked Chu Kuangren. At that moment, white lotuses floated around Chu Kuangren's body, and the sage's attacks landed on them with loud explosions. One after another, the white lotuses shattered. However, it also bought Chu Kuangren some time. When the sage's attacks were about to reach him, Chu Kuangren, who had recovered most of his spiritual power, plucked the Guqin strings, and an indescribable Guqin Daoist rhyme erupted. Final movement of the 8 celestial demonic chords, grand melodic silence. The soundless Guqin music erupted with Daoist rhymes. In the past, Chu Kuangren could use this technique to kill a great sage. Now that he had reached the supreme honorable realm, coupled with the enhancement of the 9 deaths blazing blood art, it was unimaginable. The strength of this movement was unimaginable. The terrifying sound of the zither shattered the attacks of the sages. The sound of the zither spread and set off shocking waves. Several sages were affected on the spot and were blasted away. Except for the 2 great sages, Bei Minghuan and Bei Mingheng, the other sages were killed on the spot. One Guqin music killed 4 sages and severely injured 2 great sages. Bei Minghuan and Bei Mingfang's pupils shrank when they saw such terrifying power. They stared at Chu Kuangren in horror. How can his combat strength be so incredible? This is the scaled tribe's calamity. Just as Chu Kuangren was about to finish off the remaining 2 great sages, a ray of blue light suddenly shot into the sky from the depths of the palace. The light circulated and formed a huge door in the middle of the ocean. A surge of dense spatial energy erupted. What's going on? Chu Kuangren was slightly surprised. This is the gate of the bottomless chasm. It's the king. He's asking for help from the bottomless chasm. Bei Mingfang and Bei Minghuan were overjoyed when they saw the door. In the depths of the palace, the scaled king looked at the huge door in the air excitedly. Is this the legendary gate of the bottomless chasm? Legend has it that the final destination of the past scaled kings leads to the supreme kingdom of the ocean. The bottomless chasm was an ancient kingdom of the ocean that was passed down from generation to generation in the scaled tribe. Legend had it that every scaled king would head to this place after becoming a sage and become a member of this kingdom. It was one of the unknown lands in the firmament star. Every scaled king possessed this secret treasure that could open the gate of the bottomless chasm and ask for help from the bottomless chasm. The scaled king had used this secret treasure to open the gate of the bottomless chasm. Buzz. At that moment, the gate of the bottomless chasm let out a deep sound. The huge door opened to both sides. A middle-aged man with a golden scale armor and a golden trident walked out, and a terrifying aura instantly engulfed the entire place. It's the scaled tribe's 4th king, Bei Mingxiu. The scaled king exclaimed when he saw this person. Chapter 341. The scaled king looked at the man who walked out of the bottomless chasm excitedly. He recognized the man. He also recognized the golden trident in the man's hand. According to the tribe's records, it was a divine weapon of the scaled tribe, just like the Sea King's trident, the golden trident. The golden trident had always been in Bei Mingxiu's possession. It was said that he was a rare genius of the scaled tribe, and only he could unleash the full power of the golden trident. Hence, when he left, he did not leave the golden trident behind but brought the divine weapon along with him. Although this incident displeased the later scaled kings, the scaled king felt a sense of relief when he saw Bei Mingxiu. As long as Bei Mingxiu was here, Chu Kuangren would die today. The scaled king thought to himself. The scaled tribe's 4th king, Bei Mingxiu, one of the bottomless chasm's 7 great chasm dwellers. His cultivation level is at the peak of the 7th step great sage. He cultivates the northern dark black water technique, sage ruler technique, ocean halberd technique, sage ruler technique. Chu Kuangren activated his eye of revelation to analyze Bei Mingxiu's information. Peak of the 7th step great sage? The bottomless chasm? Chu Kuangren's eyes turned serious. He had never heard of the bottomless chasm, but he knew that it must be a powerful place to have a 7th step great sage like Bei Mingxiu. Is it one of the unknown lands? Chu Kuangren murmured. None of the known sage orthodoxies in the firmament star had a peak of the 7th step great sage like Bei Mingxiu. It would be a miracle if they had a normal great sage. The only explanation was that it was the unknown lands. Only a mysterious place like that could have such a strong cultivator. Where's the current scaled king? Bei Mingxiu said faintly. The scaled king hurried forward and said respectfully, the 11th scaled king, Bei Mingping, greets you, King Bei Mingxiu. Bei Mingxiu glanced at him and said, you opened the bottomless chasm's door and summoned me here. Did something happen? That's right. This villain has invaded the scaled tribe and killed millions of our soldiers. He even killed a few sages. Please, King Bei Mingxiu, help us get rid of this threat, the scaled king said angrily. Bei Mingxiu looked at Chu Kuangren when he heard that. His face darkened when he saw the mountains of corpses and seas of blood around him. Chu Kuangren sneered. He took a step forward and arrived in front of Chu Kuangren. An incredibly violent great sage Daoist rhyme instantly erupted and charged towards Chu Kuangren. Then, the golden halberd in his hand seemed to have sensed something and trembled. Bei Mingxiu was rather surprised. Is my clan's Sea King's halberd in your hands? So what if I am? You've killed so many of my scaled tribe members and taken the Sea King's halberd. I will kill you today. Bei Mingxiu said as he gently waved the golden trident in his hand. A terrifying torrential force that was imbued with Daoist rhymes swept out and blasted towards Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren could feel an immense pressure from that one attack alone. Not daring to be careless, Chu Kuangren abruptly plucked and released the strings of the guqin in his hand. The final movement of the 8 celestial demonic chords, Grand Melodic Desolation, was unleashed. As the two surges of Daoist rhymes collided, the torrential force rushed towards Chu Kuangren. However, a large portion of it was blocked by Chu Kuangren's force field. This force field is a little strange. It can actually block most of my torrential force. It seems like this force field is the reason why this person can move freely in the deep sea and even unleash such extraordinary combat strength. Bei Mingxiu thought to himself. However, he did not feel troubled at all. With the golden trident in his hand and his status as a 7-step great sage, he did not believe that he could not handle someone who was below the level of a sage. First form of the ocean reversal halberd technique. Bei Mingxiu swung the golden halberd in his hand and an even more violent torrential force swept out. However, he did not stop there and continued to swing the golden halberd. Second form, third form. The power of each swing was stronger than the previous one. It was as if the power from the previous one was stacked on top of each other. When it came to the 9th swing, the power of the 9 halberd attacks had reached an unimaginable level. The terrifying Daoist rhymes seemed to be able to overturn the entire ocean. The last swing of the halberd exploded and turned into a majestic torrential force that surged towards Chu Kuangren. Even though Chu Kuangren had the water evasion pearl that could block a portion of the damage, the terrifying Daoist rhymes still inflicted heavy damage on him. Half of his body was almost crushed by the torrential force. Blood, bones, and pieces of his internal organs exploded and scattered into the ocean. Bei Minghuan, the scaled king, and the others were overjoyed when they saw that. As expected of the 4th scaled king. His strength is so strong that it's shocking. With the golden trident in his hand, his combat strength is almost on par with the legendary sage rulers. He's just too powerful. Bei Minghuan exclaimed. The others were also filled with admiration. The scaled king, on the other hand, looked at the golden trident enviously. The reason why Bei Mingxiu could unleash such powerful combat strength was largely due to that golden trident. That was a boundary emperor weapon. One strike is enough to kill you. Bei Mingxiu snorted with a proud look on his face. Is this the power of a sage ruler? It's impressive indeed. It's almost on par with the sage rulers of the ancient battlefield. Chu Kuangren said calmly. Half of his body had been destroyed, but his expression was still calm as if it was not his body that was destroyed. He even casually commented on Bei Mingxiu's strength, which left many people speechless. Did Chu Kuangren go deep into the ancient battlefield and meet a sage ruler? This guy really had the guts to go anywhere. No, look. At that moment, Bei Mingfang suddenly exclaimed. Chu Kuangren's destroyed body was recovering at an incredible speed. In the blink of an eye, Half of his body that had been destroyed had been restored to its original state. Everyone was dumbfounded by that scene. What technique is that? How did he do that? Everyone looked at Chu Kuangren as if he was a monster. They had seen recovery-type cultivation techniques before, but it was their first time seeing one as terrifying as Chu Kuangren's. Half of his body had been destroyed, but he could still talk and laugh, and he could even recover in such a short period of time. That kind of ability was just too insane. This guy, don't tell me he has an immortal body. Some scaled tribe members said in disbelief. No, that's impossible. There's no such thing as an immortal body in this world. I'd like to see how many times you can recover. Bei Mingxiu's eyes turned cold. He did not believe in the so-called immortal body, so he waved his halberd and charged towards Chu Kuangren again. However, Chu Kuangren did not back down against a 7-step great sage with a golden halberd in his hand. The exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, infallible tormented physique, transcendent coalescence physique, and the 9 deaths blazing blood art had boosted his combat strength to another level. Clang! The descendant self-sword and the golden halberd clashed once again, and a sound wave that was so intense that it set off waves on the ocean surface. The terrifying Daoist rhymes intertwined in the ocean and exploded into a magnificent radiance. After that attack, Chu Kuangren was blasted hundreds of feet away. Then, surges of sword chi shot out from his body and turned into countless sword chi clones that flew in all directions. Chapter 342. Even your real body can't hurt me. No matter how many sword chi clones there are, what can they do to me? Bei Mingxiu had a look of disdain on his face. Chu Kuangren replied calmly, Indeed, they can't hurt you, but unfortunately, these sword chi clones aren't meant to kill you. The clones dashed in all directions and began to slaughter the scaled tribe members as soon as they entered the crowd. Sword chi flew everywhere, and the scaled tribe members were killed on the spot. Bei Mingxiu was deeply provoked by that scene. B*****, how dare you kill my people? Bei Mingxiu glared at Chu Kuangren furiously. If the scaled tribe kills one of my people, I'll kill 1,000 of them. Do you think I'm joking? Chu Kuangren said coldly. You deserve to die for killing the innocent. To protect the Black Heaven Sect's people, I'm willing to bear the consequences of my sins. If you want to blame someone, blame the scaled tribe king for invading my Black Heaven Sect. Chu Kuangren laughed arrogantly. Were there innocent people in the scaled tribe? There were. However, Chu Kuangren did not care about that anymore. That was the only way he could kill so many scaled tribe members that they would not dare to invade the Black Heaven Sect again. That was the only way the world would fear Chu Kuangren. You're a lunatic. The scaled king glared at Chu Kuangren with bloodshot eyes. He could not wait to cut Chu Kuangren into 1,000 pieces. At the same time, he could not help but feel a sense of regret. If he knew he would provoke such a lunatic, he would not have invaded the Black Heaven Sect and caused the deaths of countless scaled tribe members. Go to hell. Bei Mingxiu attacked furiously, and the power of his trident increased. When Chu Kuangren recalled the hundreds of thousands of people who were killed and turned into food for the oceanic beasts, he too was enraged. Raging God's fist. He let out a long roar, and a violent surge of Daoist rhyme instantly erupted. When he threw out a punch, a pitch-black fist imbued with an unquenchable rage was unleashed. Suddenly, a large number of bubbles began to tumble in the sea as the raging flames caused the sea to boil. The fist and the halberd collided, and a violent force shot out, sweeping through more than half of the palace. Under this force, the resplendent palace gradually fell apart, turning into ruins, leaving only countless broken walls. The battle between Bei Mingxiu and Chu Kuangren was still ongoing. Bei Mingxiu wanted to kill Chu Kuangren and end his massacre, but he was helpless. His opponent had an immortal body, so it was difficult to kill him in one go. There was even a time when Bei Mingxiu had smashed half of Chu Kuangren's head into pieces. However, Chu Kuangren was still able to recover in such a short amount of time. That kind of ability made every scaled tribe member's scalp tingle. An unruly and unkillable existence was too terrifying. Even Bei Mingxiu could not help but feel a chill from the bottom of his heart, which made him feel a rare sense of fear. To him, Chu Kuangren was no longer a human. This was a monster. Chu Kuangren's massacre was still ongoing. His sword chi clones were scattered all over the place. With his current strength, although he could only summon 100 sword chi clones, each of them had the combat strength of an honorable. The ordinary scaled tribe soldiers would not stand a chance against them. Bei Minghuan, Bei Mingfang, and the scaled king were all severely injured. They had no problem protecting themselves, but they were powerless to stop these clones from slaughtering them. At that moment, the entire scaled tribe was filled with cries of agony. Chu Kuangren's sword chi clones did not differentiate between good and evil. Wherever they went, they only had one goal: to kill everyone on sight. How much damage could 100 supreme beings cause if they attacked one after another? Now, the scaled tribe had experienced it firsthand. D*****. Bei Mingxiu was so angry that he was about to lose his mind. However, he wielded his trident and channeled the torrential force towards Chu Kuangren. Torrential bind. Under the torrential bind, Chu Kuangren's limbs were bound, making it hard for him to move. No matter how much he channeled his spiritual power, he could not break free. Bei Mingxiu channeled all the spiritual power in his body and snorted. "Since I can't kill you, I shall seal you in this deep ocean." With a loud roar, the seabed suddenly shook, and a huge crack appeared. It seemed like Bei Mingxiu wanted to seal Chu Kuangren in this crack. The surrounding torrential water wrapped around Chu Kuangren's body and gradually turned into solid blue chains with countless mysterious runes on them. "Seal it." These blue chains pulled Chu Kuangren and gradually dragged him into the dark crevice where he could not see the light of day. As the power of the seal strengthened, the spiritual power in Chu Kuangren's body was also affected. The sword chi clones that he sent out dissipated one by one. Just as Chu Kuangren was about to be sealed, a pitch-black spatial crack suddenly appeared in the sea. A terrifying emperor's aura spread out from it, and everything in the surroundings was reduced to nothingness under this emperor's aura. Large amounts of seawater were pushed away, forming a huge spherical space in the deep ocean. Under the influence of this emperor's aura, a flaw appeared in Bei Mingxiu's sealing technique, and the power of the blue chains that bound Chu Kuangren weakened. He took this opportunity to channel his 3 supreme Daoist physiques, unleashing his ferocious chi, sword chi, and transcendental force to break free. Then he dared not stay any longer. He quickly dashed into the distance and disappeared into the deep ocean in the blink of an eye. Bei Mingxiu and the others did not care about Chu Kuangren at this time. They all stared at the spatial crack in horror. A headless figure in white walked out from it. It was the headless lady who had slaughtered everyone on the island. It's her, it's her. D****, why is she here? Bei Mingxiu obviously knew about the headless lady's existence. Although he came from the unknown lands, he was still extremely afraid of her. At that moment, he finally understood why Chu Kuangren had to escape. Not many people in this world could remain calm when facing the headless lady. Even sages and great sages were no exception. Without another word, Bei Mingxiu dashed towards the bottomless chasm's gate. As for the lives of the other scaled tribe members, he no longer cared. It was good enough that he could stay alive. However, before he could reach the bottomless chasm's gate, the headless lady gently waved her hand in his direction. An unimaginably terrifying force landed on Bei Mingxiu's body. In the blink of an eye, the 4th ruler of the scaled tribe, a 7-step great sage wielding the golden halberd, exploded into a cloud of blood mist. All that was left was his head floating in the water. The headless lady took a step forward and came before the head. She held the head in her hands and pressed it onto her own head. However, the head did not belong to her. After pressing it twice, it did not connect. Hence, she gently squeezed with her slender fingers, and Bei Mingxiu's head was instantly crushed into a cloud of blood mist. After sensing her own head twice in a row, the headless lady seemed to be extremely enraged. The emperor's aura on her body surged and swept across the surroundings. Bei Mingfeng, Bei Minghuan, and the scaled king were the first to bear the brunt of the aura. Their bones and flesh were instantly crushed by the headless lady. Following that, a large amount of life essence began to dissipate from their bodies and was absorbed by the headless lady, turning them into dried corpses. Eerie fluctuations spread as countless scaled tribe members' life essence were absorbed by the headless lady. They could not resist at all. The ocean within a radius of a few 100,000 kilometers was turned into a dead zone. In just a few breaths' time, the headless lady's massacre was comparable to the massacre that Chu Kuangren had killed for half a day. Chapter 343. The appearance of the headless lady had turned the surrounding ocean into a wasteland. Dried corpses floated on the surface of the ocean. It was a horrifying sight. She wandered around the palace for a while, as if she was still searching for her own head. However, to no avail. She was so angry that she stomped her foot, and the entire palace was instantly torn apart. Then, she came to the bottomless chasm's door and paused for a while. It was as if she was wondering if her head was inside. She then walked into the bottomless chasm's door. Once the headless lady entered, the bottomless chasm's door closed completely. At that moment, no one knew what kind of being was waiting for the bottomless chasm. After the headless lady left, the huge spherical space that she had created also dissipated. Large amounts of seawater flowed in, forming whirlpools that filled the surroundings. It took a long time for everything to return to normal. Suddenly, a figure arrived at the palace ruins. It was Chu Kuangren who had returned. He looked at the dried corpses of the scaled tribe members and could not help but feel a lingering fear. Luckily, I ran fast enough. Needless to say, the headless lady was attracted by Chu Kuangren. Before he arrived at the scaled tribe, he had already removed the talisman on the headless lady's head and released the signal that would attract the headless lady. He then stuck the talisman back on her head. The reason he did that was to borrow the headless lady's strength to deal with the scaled tribe. After all, the scaled tribe was the ruler of the ocean, and their resources were extraordinary. It was not wrong for him to have a few more insurance. In fact, he was taking a gamble by doing that. Who knew when the headless lady would come? Who knew if his immortal body could withstand the headless lady's attacks? These were all unknowns. However, it seemed like everything was going in his favor now. The headless lady appeared just as he was about to be sealed, and she helped him break the seal. Chu Kuangren was fast enough that the headless lady could not catch up to him. In the end, she even made it to the bottomless chasm. As expected, handsome men do not have bad luck. Chu Kuangren grinned. Then, he could not help but mourn for the bottomless chasm for a few seconds. Even in the unknown lands, facing the headless lady was not easy. He began to wander around the ruins of the scaled tribe's palace. After all, as the center of the scaled tribe, there must be a lot of good stuff here. Using the treasure locating skill, he managed to scavenge a lot of treasures. Needless to say, there were spirit stones, spirit marrow, and many other treasures from the sea. These were very valuable in the 4 regions. After all, the rarer something was, the greater its value. There were not many treasures from the sea in the 4 regions. But in the deep sea palace, there were a lot of them. And this trident. Chu Kuangren picked up the golden trident that Bei Mingxiu had left behind. It was an extraordinary item. Like the Heaven's Halberd and the Sea King's Halberd, it was also a boundary emperor weapon. Moreover, the 3 of them seemed to have some kind of connection. There should be records about these 3 boundary emperor weapons in this palace. Let's go and take a look, Chu Kuangren muttered. He searched around the palace and finally found a forest of tombstones that contained countless historical records of the scaled tribe. The forest of monuments recorded the history of the scaled tribe, including the number of sages, the number of scaled kings, etc. What concerned Chu Kuangren the most was, the scaled tribe once had an emperor. Therefore, strictly speaking, the scaled tribe should be considered an emperor-level orthodoxy. However, that emperor did not reign for a long time, and it had been a long time since then. Hence, the heritage that he had left behind was gradually depleted, and even the emperor's scripture had become incomplete. Hence, the scaled tribe's strength was much weaker than a true emperor-level orthodoxy. But then again, the entire firmament star, including the unknown lands, might not even have one emperor-level orthodoxy. It was no joke that there had not been an emperor in the last 150,000 years. Even if there was an emperor-level orthodoxy, the emperor's heritage would have been depleted after such a long time. Chu Kuangren continued to read the scaled tribe's records. Soon, he found records related to the 3 boundary emperor weapons. According to the records, other than an emperor's scripture, the scaled emperor had also left behind an emperor's weapon called the Sea King's halberd. However, this halberd was damaged in a great battle, and after the emperor of the scaled tribe, no one else could refine this emperor weapon. Hence, the scaled tribe split the Sea King's halberd's power. From then on, the Sea King's halberd was split into 3. They were the Heaven's halberd, the Sea King's halberd, and the Golden halberd. Among them, the Sea King's halberd was wielded by the scaled tribe's young master, the Golden halberd by the scaled king, and the Heaven's halberd by the scaled tribe's strongest general. However, according to the records, the previous general who wielded the Heaven's halberd died in battle tens of thousands of years ago. Since then, the Heaven's halberd had been lost to the outside world, and the scaled tribe had spent tens of thousands of years searching for it to no avail. Chu Kuangren pondered. The Heaven's halberd must have been obtained by the Lu Kingdom's ruler, but the Lu Kingdom's ruler had sealed himself within the Lu Kingdom's enchanted boundary tens of thousands of years ago to suppress the millions of tormented souls. That seal lasted for tens of thousands of years. No wonder the scaled tribe couldn't find it. I bet the scaled tribe rarely went onto land, so how could they have known that the Heaven's halberd was hidden within the ancient battlefield's Lu Kingdom? Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up as he looked at the golden halberd in his hand. When the 3 halberds merged together, they were the legendary emperor weapons. Although he had the sacred emerald sword case, it was a support-type emperor weapon. On the other hand, the Sea King's halberd was an offensive emperor weapon. If he could wield the Sea King's halberd, his combat strength would increase tremendously. By then, killing a great sage like Bei Mingxiu would be a piece of cake. At that thought, Chu Kuangren was eager to try it out. However, he did not recklessly merge them together. After looting the palace for a while, he turned around and returned to the surface. Meanwhile, on the surface, the news of Chu Kuangren's battle with the scaled tribe had spread far and wide. Many people were paying close attention to what was happening on the surface of the sea. After Chu Kuangren entered the sea, the entire sea was no longer calm. Waves surged, and terrifying energy waves constantly emanated from the bottom of the sea. That kind of energy waves made all the sages shudder. In the end, there was even an emperor's aura. Everyone was dumbfounded by that. Did the scaled tribe have an emperor-level trump card? After a while, the emperor's aura disappeared, and the sea gradually returned to its calm state. Then, corpses floated up from the sea. Within a radius of tens of thousands of kilometers, countless corpses floated on the surface of the sea. A thick, pungent smell of blood permeated the entire surface of the sea. It was not an exaggeration to call the scene in front of them a living hell. All the sages were stunned. They dared not imagine what Chu Kuangren had done in the deep sea for there to be so many corpses. Even a sage would be shocked by the sight of it. Such monstrous killing intent, it's too terrifying. Where's Chu Kuangren? Is he still alive? Oh my God, there are at least tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of lives here. How could Chu Kuangren do it? Too scary, too scary. If Chu Kuangren doesn't die today, then from now on, we must never provoke this person ever again. This kind of crazy behavior is infuriating. The sages were scared half to death by Chu Kuangren. Although most of the saints viewed the common people as ants, it was absolutely unprecedented to kill so many of them at once. After a long while, Chu Kuangren still did not appear. Just when everyone thought that he was dead, they heaved a sigh of relief. A figure broke out of the water. Chapter 344. Chu Kuangren broke out of the water. His appearance caused the saints who were observing in secret to turn pale with fright. This guy is not dead yet. Chu Kuangren naturally knew that many sages were watching him, but he did not care. He simply said, "The scaled tribe has killed more than 100,000 people of my Black Heaven sect. I'll pay for it with my life. I, Chu Kuangren, will bear all the consequences of this. If any of the sages here are dissatisfied, I'll gladly oblige." With that, he ignored the shocked sages and disappeared from the surface of the sea. The sages' spiritual thoughts did not disperse as they continued to communicate with each other on the surface of the sea. Especially when the sages noticed the corpses on the surface of the sea, their fear of Chu Kuangren reached its peak. Are those dried corpses? Suddenly, someone noticed something. They realized that most of the corpses floating on the sea were dried corpses. Why do these dried corpses look so familiar? One of the sages said in shock. Aren't these the corpses of the people who were killed by the headless lady on the unnamed island? Their life essences have all been sucked dry. The sages only regained their senses when they heard that. The headless lady had left such a deep impression on them that they quickly remembered who she was. Coupled with the terrifying emperor's aura that erupted from the sea not long ago, many of them immediately thought of something. Could it be that the headless lady appeared when Chu Kuangren was fighting the scaled tribe and killed so many of them? Is Chu Kuangren related to the headless lady? Many of the sages thought of the headless lady's overwhelming strength and the possibility that Chu Kuangren was related to the headless lady. Just the thought of it sent chills down their spines. Chu Kuangren is not someone we can mess with. If he really is related to the headless lady, not even 10 great sages on our side can do anything. The sages were even more afraid of Chu Kuangren as their imagination ran wild. After Chu Kuangren left the sea, he returned to the snowstorm sect's territory. It had only been a day since he left. The corpses on the shore had been buried. Just as Chu Kuangren returned, the godly phoenix Lil Red sensed his presence and quickly came over. "Brother, you're back. Are you all right?" "I'm fine." Chu Kuangren shook his head slightly. Then he looked at the snowstorm sect leader and the others who had arrived with the divine phoenix and said, "The Black Heaven sect will send some people to help with the rebuilding of the snowstorm sect. As for the scaled tribe, I don't think they will dare to attack us again." A hint of killing intent flashed across Chu Kuangren's eyes. That murderous intent sent chills down one's spine. The snowstorm sect leader and the others knew that the scaled tribe must have suffered a huge setback. Chu Kuangren must have killed many of their people. Even sages might have perished. Even the Snowgale sect leader could not imagine how many people Chu Kuangren had massacred in the scaled tribe this time around. "Many thanks, sect master." The Snow Wind sect master cupped his hands. Yes. The remaining work of cleaning up the aftermath would be handed over to the Snowstorm sect's sect leader and the others. After returning, he would let Elder Ruyan send people to help rebuild. Very soon. The news of Chu Kuangren wreaking havoc in the Scaled Tribe and killing nearly 100 million Scaled Tribe members spread like wildfire across the entire firmament star. Regardless of whether it was the 4 regions or the outer seas, everyone was scared half to death. Since ancient times, it was extremely rare for someone to kill so many living beings in a day like Chu Kuangren did. Many sages had not even witnessed such a thing even once in their long lives. As time passed, Chu Kuangren's reputation in the 4 regions and the outer seas continued to grow. One could say that he was like the sun in the sky. Everyone was wary of this lunatic. While Chu Kuangren was at the peak of his fame, a few young sky prides of unknown origins gradually appeared on the firmament star. These young sky prides possessed terrifying combat strength. Some of them were even on par with sages, and all of them had a common name. They were called Empyrean Walkers. The forces they represented were the unknown lands of Firmament Star that few people knew about. Only the sages knew more or less about them. Somewhere in the Firmament Star, in a dazzling palace that was suspended in the air, an old man sat with his legs crossed. A handsome young man in a black robe suddenly walked in. He looked at the old man and said respectfully, "Greetings, honorable teacher." "Yes, Yexin, you'll be leaving the 7 Astral Palace tomorrow. You're leaving this time to spread the name of the 7 Astral Palace and fight for fortune in this era of great battles. I have a list of sky prides here. Pay attention to the people on this list. These people may very well become your opponents." The old man took out a list and handed it to the young man, Yexin. Yi Exin took the list, but a hint of disdain flashed across his eyes. Honorable teacher, you're worrying too much. Although there are many sky prides in the outside world, most of them are below the level of a sage. How can they compare to me? My opponents are those Empyrean walkers. Huh! Suddenly Yi Exin exclaimed softly. That was because one of the names on the list in his hand was placed on the first line, and it was written in red. Obviously, this person was not ordinary. Chu Kuangren. Who is this person? Yi Exin was curious. Upon hearing that name, the old man in front of Yi Exin fell silent for a while before he said, "He's your biggest enemy on this trip. He's the most unpredictable anomaly in the past 150,000 years." Yi Exin's expression changed slightly. He had never seen such a serious expression on his honorable teacher's face before. Did his honorable teacher have such an evaluation of Chu Kuangren? At that thought, Yi Exin suddenly had an unwillingness to admit defeat. Chu Kuangren, I really want to meet this person. Remember, unless absolutely necessary, do not make an enemy out of this person. The old man said solemnly. I understand. Somewhere else. In a gloomy and treacherous hall. A young man in a black robe was sitting cross-legged with ferocious skulls moving back and forth on his body. The grand hall was filled with an eerie aura, and even the surrounding pillars were covered in frost. The young man slowly stood up and looked out of the grand hall. We'll be leaving Acheron Manor tomorrow. I wonder what kind of people the Empyrean walkers will be like this time. I'm looking forward to it. Daoist, aside from those Empyrean walkers, you need to pay special attention to another person. If I'm not mistaken, this person will be even more difficult to deal with than those Empyrean walkers. An old voice suddenly rang out in the grand hall. The young man was curious. But who is it? Black Heaven sect leader? Chu Kuangren. Remember, if you meet Chu Kuangren, you must be extremely careful when you fight him. His combat strength is no less than a great sage's. A conversation could be heard in one of the pavilions. The one who spoke was a middle-aged man in white. In front of him was a young man in a green robe. His body was surrounded by strands of razor-sharp sword qi. Yes, honorable teacher. The young man nodded slightly, but there was a hint of eagerness in his eyes. In the firmament star, various unknown lands had appeared one after another in this era of great battles. They sent out their sky prides into the realm to fight for fortune. The sky pride's battle had entered a whole new phase. Chapter 345. Ever since the battle with the Scaled Tribe, Chu Kuangren had returned to the Black Heaven sect. He had not left the Towering Heaven Palace for the past few days as well. This puzzled Elder Ruyan and the others. Didn't he just go into closed-door meditation to become an honorable supreme? Why did he go into closed-door meditation again? Although they were puzzled, they did not think too much about it. However, while Chu Kuangren was in closed-door meditation, the unknown lands began to reveal themselves one after another, stirring up a storm in Firmament Star. The sage orthodoxies that used to be superior were no different from the average orthodoxies in the face of these unknown lands. Some sage orthodoxies even tried to use this opportunity to curry favor with the unknown lands. However, no one had heard of any sage orthodoxies doing so. Besides that, the Empyrean walkers from the various unknown lands began to show their prowess on Firmament Star, defeating all the sky prides. The young emperors, the 10 unparalleled heroes, and other top-notch sky prides who used to be superior were no match for these Empyrean walkers. The unknown lands, the unknown cultivation techniques, and the Empyrean walkers who came from the unknown lands and cultivated the unknown cultivation techniques. This was the hottest topic in the Firmament Star right now, the topic that attracted the most attention. Inside the Black Heaven sect. Inside a valley. A few Daoists of the Black Heaven sect were training. When they were done, they gathered together and seemed to be discussing something. I heard that a few days ago, the young emperor of the Overlord Sage tribe, Chong Tian, was killed by an Empyrean walker from ethereal rapture in 3 moves. At that moment, Nangong Huang suddenly said. Upon hearing that, the Daoists' expressions froze. They had witnessed Chang Tian's strength in the Sky Pride Championship, but they did not expect him to be defeated in 3 moves. They would not have dared to imagine such strength in the past. He only used 3 moves. The sect leader can easily suppress Chang Tian with just a lift of his hand. He's no match for the sect leader. Jin Fian pouted and said. The others also showed expressions of agreement. However, Nangong Huang still said, the sect leader is us and we are us. If we keep relying on the sect leader, there will be no future for the Black Heaven sect. Compared to these Empyrean walkers, we still have a long way to go. We need to work harder in our cultivation. Who knows if we'll face them in the future? Well said. Among us, perhaps only Lan Yu can compete with those Empyrean walkers. Murong Xian looked at Lan Yu, who was still training. Ever since her return from the first city, Lan Yu has been in a state of high-intensity training. Out of the 24 hours in a day, only 4 hours were used for other tasks. The rest were used for cultivation. Even if the other party was a venerable one, it was not easy for them to endure the training. Not only was it a test of their physical qualities and cultivation base, but it was also a huge burden on their minds. Boom! Lan Yu had destroyed one of the sword chi clones in the sword gauntlet. At that moment, her face was covered in sweat. The sword chi clones in front of her once again reformed and struck out with their swords, sending her flying out of the sword gauntlet. Lan Yu exited the sword gauntlet and let out a long sigh of relief. The 48th floor of the sword gauntlet is too terrifying. The sword chi doppelganger is indestructible and its strength will always be higher than mine. How did the young master manage to pass through it? She thought, frowning. After leaving the sword gauntlet, Lan Yu went to the gravity training field. She only returned to the towering heaven palace in the evening. At night, she used the Daoist palace's formation to cultivate her spiritual power. The next morning, she got up and walked out of her house. She glanced at Chu Kuangren and saw that he was still in closed-door meditation. However, there was something unusual about the Black Heaven sect that day. On her way to the sword gauntlet, Lan Yu noticed that there were very few disciples in the Black Heaven sect. She stopped a passing disciple. Where did everyone go? Lan Yu asked curiously. Everyone went to the Longevity Hall. I heard that an Empyrean walker came to the Longevity Hall. Everyone was curious, so they went to take a look. An Empyrean walker? Lan Yu's eyes lit up when she heard that. She followed a group of disciples to the Longevity Hall and saw the Empyrean walker there. It was a young man dressed in black with a dignified aura. Elder Rian was busy attending to him, so she dared not neglect him. After all, he was a representative of the unknown lands. I heard that he came from a place called the Qixing Palace. Along the way, he defeated 3 young emperors in a row, and each time he only used 1 move. What? He's that powerful? That's right. These Empyrean walkers are extremely powerful, and none of them should be underestimated. I heard that they are comparable to sages. That terrifying? Outside the Longevity Hall, everyone was discussing fervently. Lan Yu was also among them, sizing up the Empyrean walker. Gradually, a serious look appeared in her eyes. This person is very strong. Inside the Longevity Hall, Yexin smiled. I wonder where sect leader Chu is now. The sect leader is currently in closed-door meditation. It's not convenient for him to meet any guests. Elder Rian said. Yexin frowned. I wonder when sect leader Chu will come out of his closed-door meditation? We're not sure about that. Chu Kuangren did not mention when he would come out of his closed-door meditation, nor did he mention the reason for his closed-door meditation. Therefore, the people of the Black Heaven sect did not know when he would come out of his closed-door meditation. Since Chu Kuangren had been in closed-door meditation for 3 years, they would not be surprised if they did not see him for a year and a half. Since sect leader Chu is in closed-door meditation, I'll wait for him in the Black Heaven sect. I wonder if Elder Rian can arrange a place for me to stay? Yexin smiled, showing no intention of leaving. Hearing this, Elder Rian frowned slightly. May I know why you must look for our sect leader? Nothing else. I've heard that sect leader Chu is very powerful, so I'm here to learn a thing or two from him. Yi Xian did not hide the purpose of his visit. His words did not come as a surprise to Elder Ruyan and the others. The reason why Empyrean walkers entered the realm was to make a name for their orthodoxies in this era of great battles, to fight for fortunes, and to pave the way for the unknown lands to fully reveal themselves. Since ancient times, there were only a few ways for a cultivator to make a name for himself. Among them, the most convenient and common way was to defeat some famous people with their strength and use their reputation as a stepping stone to rise to the top. In this world today, who could be more famous than Chu Kuangren? It was only a matter of time before he was targeted by the Empyrean walkers. Brother Yi, don't worry. I'll get someone to arrange a place for you to stay, Elder Ruyan said after some thought. Since Yi Xian was here to challenge the unknown lands, it would be too impolite to just send him away. Moreover, it would give others the impression that Chu Kuangren was a coward. Where's Chu Kuangren? At that moment, a voice came from outside the Black Heaven Sect's mountain gate. Everyone looked over and saw a muscular young man standing in front of the Black Heaven Sect's mountain gate. A strange look flashed across Yi Xian's eyes when he saw that person. I was wondering who it was. So it's the immovable sect's Empyrean walker, Guisan. Everyone was speechless when they heard his words. Holy T, another Empyrean walker? Elder Ruyan brought her people to Guisan and said, "May I know why you're here looking for our Black Heaven Sect's sect leader?" I want to challenge Chu Kuangren. Guisan laughed. Elder Ruyan shook her head helplessly. Fine, another one is here to challenge our sect leader. Chapter 346. While Chu Kuangren was in closed-door meditation, the Empyrean walkers kept coming to challenge him. First came Yi Xian, then came Guisan. After making arrangements for the two of them, another two Empyrean walkers came knocking on Elder Ruyan's door in the next few days, giving her quite a headache. Meanwhile, news of the Empyrean walkers challenging Chu Kuangren had spread like wildfire, and many people were paying close attention to this matter. In the Black Heaven sect, the four Empyrean walkers were currently gathered together. Everyone, what do you guys think of Chu Kuangren? Yi Xian from the Qixing Palace was the first to speak. At the side, a woman with a voluptuous figure smiled charmingly. I heard that he has the looks of a celestial being. Who knows how many people have been mesmerized by his face? I really want to see just how beautiful he is. I didn't expect the Empyrean walkers of Thousand Flowers Valley to be such shallow people. What a disappointment. A burly man with black hair and black sneered and said disdainfully. This person was an Empyrean walker from the Battle Cloud Realm, Zhanlong. Who's like you Battle Cloud Realm people? You're all a bunch of battle maniacs who don't know how to appreciate the beauty of life. Feng Yaorao, the Empyrean walker from Myriad Flower Valley, rolled her eyes and said, I've heard that this Chu Kuangren can fight a great sage. I don't know if it's true, but his strength shouldn't be underestimated. Yi Xian said, I know that Chu Kuangren won't be able to come out of his closed-door meditation anytime soon. Why don't we have a competition first? What do you think? Guishan of the immovable residence suddenly suggested. Upon hearing that, the eyes of the other three lit up. The most battle-hungry Zhanlong even grinned and said, All right then. Since Chu Kuangren has yet to come out of his closed-door meditation, it's fine to have a few appetizers first. Hearing his words, everyone raised their eyebrows. Treating us as an appetizer? You sure are arrogant. I just don't know if you can eat it. Let me test you first. Guishan took a step forward, and an extremely majestic Daoist rhyme erupted from his body. It was as if his entire being was connected to the ground beneath his feet, and his entire body emanated an aura that was as heavy as a mountain. The immovable manner was proficient in the Tao of Earth Qi. They could borrow the boundless earthen Qi and transform it into battle power. Come on. Zhanlong laughed out loud, and a majestic Daoist rhyme erupted from his body as well. This Daoist rhyme was violent and scorching. As it spread out, more than half of the Black Heaven sect seemed to be shrouded in an endless battle cloud. Everyone could almost hear the roars of battle coming from the void. Nangong Huang, Murong Xian, and the others were all alarmed. They looked into the distance with bewilderment in their eyes. Such a terrifying aura. Is this the strength of an Empyrean walker? They are indeed extraordinary, but why are they fighting? Let's go and take a look. The few of them hurried over to where the Empyrean walkers resided. Wuxia and Xianxia had already started fighting. Both of them were extremely powerful sky prides. Just the clash of their Daoist rhymes alone had affected half of the Black Heaven sect. As they fought, terrifying energy ripples spread, and many of the spectating disciples were sent flying. What a terrifying aura. We can't even get close to it. Too strong. Some of the disciples discussed spiritedly, feeling incomparably amazed. In the face of such a battle, only Nangong Huang, Murong Xian, and the others could withstand the pressure and watch the battle from a close distance. Even so, it was still very difficult for them to fight Empyrean walkers like Wuxia and Xianxia. Boom. Wuxia and Xianxia's fists and palms collided. The violent earth qi and surging spiritual energy collided, causing the mountain beneath their feet to rapidly crack and collapse with a loud bang. A landslide erupted, instantly destroying the residences of some of the nearby disciples. However, Wuxia and Xianxia were oblivious to it. They were still engrossed in their battle, their terrifying Daoist rhymes constantly intertwining. Boom, boom, boom. Both of their combat strength was extraordinary, and great power was often accompanied by destruction. The battle between the two Empyrean walkers had already caused severe damage to some parts of the Black Heaven sect. Although it was not a big deal for a large sect like Black Heaven sect, who knew how many more things would be destroyed? If they continued to fight like this, who knew how many more things would be destroyed? If more lives were lost, it would be even more difficult to clean up the mess. No, we have to stop them. At least let them fight somewhere else. Nangong Huang frowned slightly. His figure flashed, and spiritual energy surged all over his body. Yin-yang divine light flowed in his eyes as he resisted the shock waves from the battle between the two Empyrean walkers. Both of you, please stop. Your battle has already caused damage to the Black Heaven sect. Go fight somewhere else. Nangong Huang said loudly. Ha, we're having a good time. How can we possibly stop? Don't worry, we'll compensate for the damage. We have plenty of spirit stones anyway, Xianxia said with a laugh. His body was burning with a raging battle intent. Opposite him, Wuxia was equally excited. That's right. We're already at this stage. How can we stop just like that? Come to take this seal of mountains and rivers. Wuxia formed a mysterious hand seal, and waves of earth qi gushed out from the surface of the ground. It then transformed into a gigantic mountain range that carried a peerlessly powerful and boundless Daoist rhymes as it smashed towards Xianxia. Good one. Xianxia's eyes lit up. He clenched his fist, and an equally powerful Daoist rhyme gathered. Heaven Conqueror Fist. He threw a punch, and the fist force raged like a torrential flood. Boundless battle intent and Daoist rhymes slammed into the void. Both forces had reached the level of a sage, and the shockwaves caused by the collision spread. Nangong Huang, who was closest to the battle, was shocked. He quickly mobilized all the spiritual energy in his body and emitted a yin-yang divine light to resist the impact. Even so, he was still pushed back hundreds of feet. He felt a tightness in his chest, and he could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. What a powerful force. I can't even withstand the shockwaves. Nangong Huang watched the battle in horror. Both Empyrean walkers were not at the level of a sage, but they could exert sage-level combat strength. This was what Empyrean walkers were like. Without absolute strength, how could they dare to make a name for their sect? Deep within the Black Heaven sect. This is too much. Do they really think that just because they're Empyrean walkers and represent the unknown lands, they can do whatever they want in the Black Heaven sect? The Black Heaven sect's third forefather said angrily. Just when he was about to stop Wuxia and Xianxia from causing more damage to the Black Heaven sect. In the distance, a sword ray shot into the sky from the direction of the towering Heaven Palace, and an incredibly cold sword-based Daoist rhyme quickly spread. The Black Heaven sect's third forefather and the others could not help but be surprised. This aura, Is the sect leader out of his closed-door meditation? It's not the sect leader. It was not Chu Kuangren who came out from the towering heaven palace. Instead, it was an exquisite and beautiful sword shaped like white jade. That was the sword that was ranked first in the 100-sword spectrum. Descendant Self. The Descendant Self sword trembled slightly, and like a stream of light, it shot into the sky above the battle between Guisan and Zhanlong. Then, an overwhelming sword-based Daoist rhyme gushed out. When Guisan and Zhanlong felt the terrifying sword-based Daoist rhyme, their expressions changed, and they stopped what they were doing. Chapter 347. The Descendant Self sword stopped above the two Empyrean walkers. An incredibly cold sword-based Daoist rhyme emanated and landed on the two Empyrean walkers, forcing them to temporarily stop their attacks. They looked at the Descendant Self sword that was floating in the air with a hint of fear in their eyes. They dared not act recklessly. Is Chu Kuangren here? Guisan asked solemnly. No, he's not here. It's only his sword that's here. Not far away, Yexen took a deep breath and said. He had done some research on Chu Kuangren before he arrived, so he naturally knew that the magnificent ancient sword before him was Chu Kuangren's weapon. Yet, a single sword was already so powerful. What about Chu Kuangren's combat strength? At that thought, Yexen's heart was filled with fear, but at the same time, he was looking forward to meeting Chu Kuangren. Indeed, he's a strong opponent. A single sword. Upon hearing that, Zhanlong was enraged. What does Chu Kuangren mean? A single sword? Is he trying to suppress us with just a single sword? Isn't he looking down on us a little too much? As he said that, he took a step forward and clenched his fist. An extremely violent Daoist rhyme poured out like a torrent towards the Descendant Self sword. The power of this strike was unparalleled. The fist energy swept through the void, causing the void to rumble with sonic booms. Just as that punch was about to land on the Descendant Self sword, the sword trembled slightly and an even more terrifying sword-based Daoist rhyme gushed out, accompanied by a dazzling purple sword ray. The sword ray destroyed Zhanlong's punch like a hot knife through butter before it landed on Zhanlong's body. The terrifying force sent Zhanlong flying hundreds of feet away, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. The Empyrean walkers at the scene were dumbfounded by that scene. Just a single sword and a single sword chi could render an Empyrean walker defenseless. What kind of terrifying strength was that? Chu Kuangren really lives up to his name, Guisan said solemnly. Not too far away, Zhanlong flew into a rage out of humiliation. Boundless spiritual energy seemed to surge from his body and his eyes were gradually dyed with a layer of black light. I was too careless just now. I still have an even stronger move that I have yet to use. I don't believe that a single sword can do anything to us. They were Empyrean walkers who represented the various unknown lands in the world. They shouldered the mission of spreading the name of their orthodoxies, but now they were being suppressed by a sword. If word of this got out, what would they say? The other Empyrean walkers would laugh themselves to death. I advise you to conserve your strength. Don't get mad at a sword. Chu Kuangren hasn't even shown himself yet. Just as Zhanlong was about to make his move, Yexen suddenly said. Upon hearing his words, Zhanlong's eyes flashed. After pondering for a while, he slowly retracted the aura on his body. Oof, that's fine too. I'll save this move for Chu Kuangren when I meet him. High up in the sky, the Descendant Self sword, which had sensed that Zhanlong's aura had been withdrawn, trembled slightly. Then, an even more powerful sword-based Daoist rhyme erupted from its body, crashing onto the four Empyrean walkers like mountains. It was as if it was asking, do you guys still want to fight? In the face of such a provocative Descendant Self sword, Zhanlong was so angry that he almost attacked again. However, he forced himself to restrain himself in the end. After the Empyrean walkers stopped their attacks, the Descendant Self sword hovered in the sky for a while before it retracted its sword-based Daoist rhyme. It then turned into a stream of light that pierced through the clouds and returned to the towering heaven palace. What a good sword! Yexen could not help but exclaim. The sword is good, but I wonder how the person is doing. I hope he doesn't disappoint me too much. Xianlong snorted coldly. You were sent flying by a single sword chi. I really don't know where you get the courage to say that, Feng Yaorao said with a chuckle. Xianlong's expression darkened. Feng Yaorao, do you want to fight? Believe it or not, if we keep fighting, that sword will fly back to us. When that happens, I don't want to be sent flying by a sword like you, Feng Yaorao said with a faint smile. Heh. All right, let's not cause any more trouble before Chu Kuangren comes out of his closed-door meditation, Yi Xian said. Feng Yaorao and Guisan nodded. They had the same thought. As for Xianlong, although he was unwilling, there was nothing he could do. He could only suppress his anger and wait for Chu Kuangren to come out of his closed-door meditation. Not far away, Nangong Huang and the others looked at each other. Are we going to stop fighting just like that? The sect leader only used a sword to stop the battle between these Empyrean walkers. Tiske, this technique is truly admirable. The sect leader is indeed the sect leader. He easily achieved what we couldn't. That's right. The few Daoists discussed. At the same time, after witnessing the battle between the Empyrean walkers, they deeply felt that their strength was far from enough. Compared to these Empyrean walkers, their performance in the Sky Pride Championship was not even worth mentioning. They were not on the same level at all. I have to work harder, Nangong Huang said emotionally. The Descendant Self-Sword flew back to the Towering Heaven Palace and landed in Chu Kuangren's room. Is it settled? Chu Kuangren smiled as he looked at the Descendant Self-Sword that had returned. The Descendant Self-Sword floated up and down as if it was nodding. It then spun around twice as if it was asking for praise. Not bad. Chu Kuangren did as the Descendant Self-Sword wished and praised it. The Descendant Self-Sword spun around happily a few more times before it lay quietly on the bed. How dare a few Empyrean walkers mess around in the Black Heaven sect? I'm afraid these newbies haven't been beaten up by society yet. Chu Kuangren curled his lips and said. Then, he looked at the 3 orbs of light that were floating in front of him, and a strange look flashed across his eyes. I guess it's almost time. The 3 orbs of light were black, silver, and gold respectively. They were the Heaven's Halberd, Sea King's Halberd, and Golden Halberd that Chu Kuangren had obtained consecutively. At this moment, he was refining these 3 boundary Emperor weapons, planning to merge them into one and turn them back into the Emperor weapon, Sea King's Halberd. Refining a monarch armament was not an easy task. In the past, Chu Kuangren was able to refine the sacred emerald sword case because he had the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, which was very compatible with the sacred emerald sword case. With the sword case recognizing him as its master, the refinement process was unusually smooth. However, refining the Emperor weapon, Sea King's Halberd, was not so easy. This Emperor weapon was the Scaled Tribe's Emperor weapon, and all Emperor weapons were arrogant and prideful. Without its recognition, it would be difficult for an ordinary cultivator to refine it. In other words, it was not a human who chose the Emperor weapon. It was the Emperor weapon that chose the human. It was definitely not an easy task to refine it by force. Chu Kuangren was extremely talented. Although the Emperor weapon did not resist his refinement, it was not as active as the sacred emerald sword case either. Therefore, it would take him some time to refine this Emperor weapon. This was also the reason why he had been in closed-door meditation for the past few days. Now, this Emperor weapon was almost fully refined by him. Time passed. Another 2 days had passed. Just when the Empyrean walkers were getting impatient and countless people were waiting to see how Chu Kuangren would deal with the 4 Empyrean walkers, Chu Kuangren's room door opened. In the courtyard, Lan Yu and Lil Bing looked over in surprise. Master, you're finally out of closed-door meditation. The 2 of them went up to greet him. In the distance, Yi Exin, Xianlong, and the others also sensed it. Hi, he's out. Chapter 348. He's finally out. After waiting for so long, it's not a waste of time. Chu Kuangren, I'm coming. The 4 Empyrean walkers gathered in the Black Heaven sect all turned into streams of light and flew towards the Towering Heaven Palace. Inside the Towering Heaven Palace, Chu Kuangren was catching up with Lil Bing and Lan Yu while the godly phoenix rubbed itself against him. Suddenly, he seemed to have sensed something and looked into the distance. That annoying person is here. Chu Kuangren curled his lips with a look of disdain. If it were a normal challenge, he would not be so disgusted. After all, people loved fame, and there were many who wanted to use him as a stepping stone, not to mention these Empyrean walkers who wanted to make a name for their orthodoxies. However, a challenge was a challenge. What was the point of destroying the Black Heaven sect's public property? Did he really think that the Black Heaven sect's soul stones came from nowhere? He had worked so hard to win them back. Ha, Chu Kuangren, you're finally out. A burst of laughter resounded in the sky above the towering Heaven Palace. Zhanlong was the first to arrive, and his battle intent erupted. The battle intent was like a tidal wave that slammed into the void and caused the weather to change. The entire towering Heaven Palace shook twice. Chu Kuangren frowned. I'm afraid you won't be able to pay for my palace if you damage it. Hearing that, Zhanlong laughed and said, You're the Black Heaven sect leader. Can't you even part with a Daoist palace? Rest assured, sect leader Chu. If this battle causes any damage, we'll pay for it. At that moment, Yi Xian also arrived. Feng Yaorao and Guisan also arrived. When she saw Chu Kuangren, a strange look flashed across Feng Yaorao's eyes. You really have the looks of a celestial being. Little brother, why don't you give up your position as sect leader and follow me back to the Thousand Flower Valley? I guarantee that you'll enjoy yourself so much that you'll never want to leave again. Chu Kuangren replied, No need. I'm doing quite well as a sect leader. My back is not sore, and my legs are not aching. If I go to the Thousand Flower Valley, I'm afraid I won't even be able to get out of bed. Ha, little bro, you sure know how to joke. How could we make it so that you can't even get out of bed? You make it sound like Myriad Flower Valley is a den of demons and we will eat you up, Feng Yaorao said with a coquettish laugh. Cut the crap. I know why you came to my Black Heaven sect. I don't like trouble. It's too troublesome to fight one by one. I sincerely suggest that you all come at me together. Chu Kuangren said with an indifferent expression as he stood with his hands behind his back. However, his words made the four Empyrean walkers' expressions change slightly. Even Feng Yaorao, who had been smiling all this while, had a hint of anger on her face. Sect Master Chu, you're looking down on us too much. Yi Xian's face darkened. As Empyrean walkers from the unknown lands, they naturally had their own pride. However, now that they were being looked down upon by Chu Kuangren, coupled with the fact that they had waited for so many geniuses, they could not help but be enraged. However, Chu Kuangren did not seem to notice their anger at all. He continued, I'm not looking down on you guys. I'm just proposing the most reasonable plan based on the current situation. His words did not comfort the Empyrean walkers. Instead, it was like adding fuel to the fire, making them even angrier. What do you mean by the current situation? What is the most reasonable plan? If you say that we're no match for you, then just say it be ****. Chu Kuangren, you sure are arrogant. I'd like to see if you can still say something like that later. Zhanlong was the first to lose his patience. He took a step forward and dashed out. His 5 fingers were filled with a majestic force as he clenched them into a fist and smashed it towards Chu Kuangren. Lan Yu and Lil Bing, who were behind Chu Kuangren, felt an extremely terrifying pressure sweeping towards them. Lan Yu could withstand it, but Lil Bing was in a difficult situation. Her body trembled, and it was only thanks to Lan Yu that she did not kneel on the ground. Upon seeing that, Chu Kuangren unleashed his Battle Monarch domain to protect the 2 ladies. He then looked at Zhanlong, who was charging towards him with a cold gaze. How rude of you to attack just like that. He raised his hand and unleashed a punch as well. He did not use any mystical Daoist techniques. Instead, he simply blasted out his spiritual power. Even so, with the 6 supreme foundation levels in his body, the power of that punch was still extremely terrifying. An incredibly powerful surge of spiritual power spread out like a tidal wave and collided with Zhanlong's punch. The huge force sent Zhanlong flying. Then, Chu Kuangren's figure turned into a stream of light and appeared before Zhanlong. His speed was so fast that it was difficult for anyone to react. When Chu Kuangren arrived before Zhanlong, he grabbed him by the collar without any resistance. Then he dashed into the distance. Yi Xian, Feng Yaorao, and Guisan quickly chased after him. Chu Kuangren arrived at the Black Heaven Sect's mountain entrance with Zhanlong in his grasp. He lifted his arm and flung Zhanlong into a mountain peak. "Alright, it's more spacious here. Let's fight here," Chu Kuangren said. Behind him, Yi Xian, Feng Yaorao, and Guisan had already caught up. They were speechless when they saw Zhanlong being flung into the mountain peak. Zhanlong was not weak, but he was still caught by Chu Kuangren and thrown into the mountain without any resistance. Just the thought of it was terrifying. At least, the three of them could not do it. He asked the four of us to attack him together. Perhaps he really has the strength to fight all of us at once, Yi Xian said solemnly. Chu Kuangren. At that moment, a roar came from the mountain peak. Zhanlong soared into the sky. First, he was suppressed by Chu Kuangren's sword, and now he was thrown into the mountain. His rage had already accumulated to the limit. Mixed with his battle intent, it erupted in one go and swept out in a frenzy in all directions. "Oh, you're angry now," Chu Kuangren said playfully. "Chu Kuangren, eat this. Sky Conqueror Fist, violent." Zhanlong gave it his all. His eyes were filled with black light, a sign that his battle intent had reached its limit. After he unleashed that punch, a series of battle roars erupted in the void. The power of that punch had surpassed that of an ordinary sage. For someone below the level of a sage to be able to unleash such a fist technique, Zhanlong's talent and combat strength could be said to be rare. That was the true strength of an Empyrean walker trained by the unknown lands. He was an unparalleled sky pride that surpassed the understanding of the world. Battle intent? What a coincidence, I have one too, Chu Kuangren said. A terrifying ferocious chi suddenly erupted from his body. Infallible tormented physique activated. As he unleashed his punch, an even more terrifying battle intent and ferocious chi erupted. The battle roar that reverberated in the void overpowered Zhanlong. When the two fist energies collided in the void, Zhanlong's fist energy was shattered in less than a breath's time. The fist energy that was mixed with ferocious chi and battle intent landed on Zhanlong's body. The terrifying force immediately smashed his opponent thousands of feet into the ground, forming a huge pitch-black crater. "I told you to come at me together. Why didn't you guys believe me? Alright, now it's just the three of you." Chu Kuangren looked at Yi Xian and the other two and gestured for them to come at him. "Come on, let's get this boring farce over with as soon as possible." Chapter 349. Come at me together. Let's end this nonsense quickly, Chu Kuangren said calmly. His words made the remaining three Empyrean walkers' faces turn grim. They did not expect Chu Kuangren to look down on them so much. Immovable Residence Empyrean Walker, Guishan, thanks for the challenge. Guishan took a step forward and channeled the spiritual power in his body. A surge of majestic Daoist rhyme erupted, guiding the surrounding earth chi into the sky. The earth chi gathered in the void and turned into a mountain range that was filled with dense energy. It then smashed towards Chu Kuangren. Seal of mountains and rivers. Facing an attack that was comparable to a sage's, Chu Kuangren calmly raised his hand. "I'm familiar with guiding the power of earth chi too." He raised his hand and a surge of violent yellow earth chi rose from the ground. Its scale was even more majestic than Guishan's seal of mountains and rivers. The earth chi gathered in his palm and emitted a yellow divine light. Chu Kuangren gently clapped his hands. A surge of terrifying human mountain energy erupted from his palm and swept away the incoming mountain range as if it was sweeping away dust. Accompanied by a deafening sound, the huge mountain range was forcefully shattered into pieces and turned back into spiritual chi. The Daoist rhyme then dissipated. Guishan's eyes widened when he saw that. How is this possible? He knows how to use earth chi too, and it's so terrifying. Guishan came from the immovable residence, and among the unknown lands, the immovable residence was the best at using earth chi. Ever since he entered the realm, Guishan had dominated the firmament with his earth chi manipulation technique and the seal of mountains and rivers. This was the first time in his life that he was at a disadvantage in a battle of earth chi. It was a huge blow to him. "I'll take him on." Yi Xian from the Seven-Star Palace made his move too. He took a step forward and a large amount of starry Daoist rime flowed beneath his feet. It instantly formed a magnificent scene of the Milky Way. Seven-Star Sword Go. A sword appeared in Yi Xian's hand. The sword's design was extremely gorgeous, and it was surrounded by streaks of starry Daoist rime. With a swing of the sword, the starry Daoist rime around Yi Xian gathered and turned into a dazzling sword ray that resembled the Milky Way. Such a sword Dao was magnificent, dazzling, and peerlessly vast. "It does look good, but it's too gaudy," Chu Kuangren said. Then, without moving the descendant self-sword at his waist, Chu Kuangren pointed his sword finger and drew a line in the air. Following that, a purple sword ray appeared out of thin air and rushed out with a majestic sharpness. The moment the two sword chis collided, the Milky Way sword chi shattered inch by inch. The entire sword chi, from the spiritual energy to the Daoist rime, collapsed. The sword light slashed toward Yi Xian like a hot knife through butter. He blocked with his sword. With a loud clang, the Big Dipper sword in his hand hummed incessantly as he was forcefully knocked back several thousand feet. He held the Seven-Star Sword in his hand, but his palm was already cracked and bleeding. Ching. At this moment, the sound of a zither suddenly resounded. Feng Yaorao took out a zither and plucked it with her 10 fingers. An incomparably profound zither sound reverberated in the air. There seemed to be a faint fragrance drifting in the air, tugging at the heartstrings of people. Between heaven and earth, hundreds of flowers suddenly bloomed. Each flower was formed by the spiritual energy drawn by the sound of the zither, and contained an incomparably sharp strength. The sound of the zither was captivating, the fragrance of the flowers was intoxicating, and the petals were deadly blades. This was the sound of the zither from the 10,000 Flower Valley, 100 flowers in bloom. The sound of the zither continued to reverberate. However, Chu Kuangren had an invisible barrier around him that kept the petals at bay. His eyes were clear, and he did not look like he was mesmerized by the zither sound. Instead, he looked at Feng Yaorao with interest. Upon seeing this, Feng Yaorao plucked all 10 fingers, and the sound of the zither did not stop. She channeled her spiritual energy, and more spiritual chi gathered. Under the guidance of the zither sound, countless petals swayed in the air and floated toward Chu Kuangren. The zither sound is not bad, but the Daoist rime is a little lacking. "You should meet my zither." Chu Kuangren chuckled. He then placed the lingering zither in front of his chest. He plucked the strings, and a surge of surging zither Daoist rime instantly erupted. Boundless heaven and earth, stormy city, resounding bells, the sound of the zither reverberated throughout the land. Feng Yaorao's zither sound was instantly suppressed by Chu Kuangren's 8 celestial demonic chords. That dense and majestic zither Daoist rime stunned her. She could not move her fingers on the zither strings. The difference in their zither Daoist rhymes was obvious. The 4 great Empyrean walkers, 4 peerless sky prides from the unknown lands, were defeated by Chu Kuangren in their respective areas of expertise. Such a blow was even more unbearable than directly defeating them. "I don't believe it. I don't believe that you're truly invincible." Not far away, Zhan Long, who was punched thousands of meters into the ground by Chu Kuangren, rushed out with a set of black armor on his body. That armor was extremely ferocious as it covered Zhan Long's entire body. Coupled with Zhan Long's overwhelming battle intent, he looked like a god of war. He took a stride forward while monstrous battle intent erupted from him. Under the boost provided by the armor, his might actually rose a level higher than before. Sky-conquering tyrant fist, world crumbling. Zhan Long roared with a soaring battle intent. He threw out a punch, and a terrifying spiritual power and Daoist rhyme that seemed capable of destroying the world erupted. In an instant, the world crumbled, and the winds and clouds changed. A gigantic fist mark descended from the sky. That fist mark had yet to come close, but it had already caused the ground around him to crack and explode, forming a huge crater. Faced with such power, Chu Kuangren remained calm. He gently lifted his hand, and boundless ferocious qi and battle intent gushed out. The infallible tormented physique was activated once again. Chu Kuangren gently threw out a punch, but a surge of violent fury gushed out. Raging God's Fist. The pitch-black fist mark burned with raging flames as it violently smashed onto Zhan Long's fist mark. The two fist marks collided and exploded. A terrifying shockwave spread out rapidly, and the mountains within a 100-kilometer radius crumbled in an instant. Smoke and dust rose into the air, almost covering half the sky. Under such a terrifying shockwave, Zhan Long was forced to retreat even though he was protected by his black armor. He could feel a sense of suffocation in his chest. What a terrifying fist energy. Even through a sage ruler armor, it can still hurt me. That's terrifying, Zhan Long said with fear in his heart. Seeing that Zhan Long had unleashed his trump card, the other three Empyrean walkers no longer held back and unleashed their own trump cards. Streaks of dazzling starlight circulated around Yi Exin, forming a spectacular scene of the Big Dipper hanging in the sky. Big Dipper descent. With a loud shout, the Big Dipper in the sky shone brilliantly at the same time, and 7 streaks of starlight shot out from it. The 7 stars converged and formed a 100-meter-long Big Dipper sword shadow. Wherever the sword shadow passed, the void seemed to be torn apart. Seal of mountains and rivers, 10,000 mountains. Guisan roared, and an endless amount of earth qi converged towards him, forming a gigantic seal that was engraved with the majestic scene of 10,000 mountains and rivers. It then smashed towards Chu Kuangren. Feng Yaorao too channeled her spiritual power to its limits as she plucked the guqin with all 10 of her fingers. Waves of guqin music surged in the void and blasted towards Chu Kuangren like a tidal wave, wave after wave. Everlasting fragrance. The strongest guqin music in the Thousand-Flower Valley had been unleashed. The 3 Empyrean walkers had each used their trump cards and unleashed their strongest techniques. 3 different surges of Daoist rhymes, but all of them were equally powerful and unparalleled as they blasted towards Chu Kuangren. Chapter 350. The 3 Empyrean walkers unleashed their trump cards at the same time. Terrifying energies blasted towards Chu Kuangren at the same time, causing the air around him to explode continuously. Even the void was almost distorted. Chu Kuangren stood calmly in the void amidst all these energies. It was as if everything before him was nothing more than a gentle breeze. He held the guqin in front of him and plucked the strings with his fingers. His eyes narrowed, and a majestic guqin Daoist rhyme gushed out. Heavenly reverberation. The guqin music reverberated through the air. The heavens and earth trembled. Wave after wave of guqin Daoist rhyme attacked everything around him. The dazzling Big Dipper sword shadow was disintegrated, the gigantic mountain river seal was shattered, and the enchanting guqin Daoist rhyme went silent. The energies that blasted towards Chu Kuangren were completely disintegrated by the guqin Daoist rhyme. They could not hurt him at all. On the other hand, Yi Exin, Feng Yaorao, and Guisan were all severely injured by the heavenly reverberation. They spat out mouthfuls of blood, and their bodies involuntarily flew backward. Their auras instantly weakened. Among the 4 Empyrean walkers, only Zhan Long, who was wearing a sage ruler weapon armor, could still fight. However, after witnessing Chu Kuangren's overwhelming combat strength, Zhan Long could not help but gulp. His battle intent was much lower than before, and he looked at Chu Kuangren with shock in his eyes. This is too terrifying. He managed to injure 3 Empyrean walkers so easily. Is this guy really from an orthodoxy like the Black Heaven sect? Besides, Zhan Long glanced at the Descendant Self-sword hanging on Chu Kuangren's waist. He knew that Chu Kuangren most likely did not use his full strength because he had not drawn his sword since the beginning. We've lost this battle. Zhan Long took a deep breath and said, although he was unwilling to admit defeat, he knew very well that he was no match for Chu Kuangren even if they continued fighting. The 4 Empyrean walkers had suffered a crushing defeat in today's battle. Since you've admitted defeat, There are some things that we should talk about, Chu Kuangren said as he put away his lingering song. What is it? I'm sure you've destroyed quite a number of buildings in the Black Heaven sect a few days ago. You should at least compensate us with some soul stones, right? Of course. Zhanlong did not refuse and threw out a yin and yang ring. Chu Kuangren took it and nodded in satisfaction. As expected of the Empyrean walkers from the unknown lands. They were so generous with their gifts, casually handing out tens of millions of upper-grade spirit stones. TSK. Those unknown lands had existed for countless years, and the depth of their heritage far surpassed that of the sage orthodoxies. Who knew how many treasures they had? If he could go there and plunder, at that thought, Chu Kuangren hurriedly extinguished that dangerous thought. The unknown lands had a lot of resources, so he could not afford to mess around. He looked at Guishan, who handed over his interspatial ring. Very good. Since we've fought, I won't be sending you off. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. Then, his figure turned into a stream of light and disappeared on the spot. Looking at the direction of the Black Heaven sect's mountain gate, the few Empyrean walkers could not help but smile bitterly. They were all cultivated by the unknown lands and were prodigies who had made a name for their orthodoxies. Their battle prowess was much stronger than the prodigies of the outside world. Therefore, they were arrogant. When they descended into the realm this time, they had defeated countless sky prides with a near-invincible attitude. They did not expect to suffer an unprecedented blow from Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren, this person's strength, is unfathomable. Yexin took a deep breath and said, with this person around, it'll be difficult for others to become emperors. Zhanlong was extremely solemn as well. Since the great Dharma emergence of this era, there won't be only one person who becomes an emperor. However, the first person to become an emperor will undoubtedly have a huge lead. But with this person around, who can beat him to becoming an emperor? A person like him is indeed worthy of being called a celestial being. Feng Yaorao said with a strange glint in her beautiful eyes. Not only did she not resent Chu Kuangren for beating her up, she even felt a strange sense of admiration for him in her heart. The news of Chu Kuangren defeating 4 Empyrean walkers spread like wildfire. Some of the forces who were paying attention to this matter were shocked. They had expected Chu Kuangren to win, but they did not expect him to win so easily. The unknown lands, in particular, were even more depressed. They had sent Empyrean walkers into the realm for 2 reasons. 1, to spread the name of their orthodoxies and pave the way for the appearance of the unknown lands. The other reason was to let the Empyrean walkers fight for luck in this era of great battles and win the opportunity to become an emperor. However, now there was a Chu Kuangren in the world. He was the only one in the world, and all the luck in the world was concentrated in his hands. How many opportunities did the others have to become an emperor? Chu Kuangren did not know what the unknown lands were thinking. Of course, even if he knew, he would not care. Becoming an emperor depended on one's own abilities. Being stronger than others was his greatest ability. After defeating the Empyrean walkers, Chu Kuangren returned to the Black Heaven sect. Nangong Huang, Elder Rian, and the other elders held a celebration feast for him. Chu Kuangren felt that there was no need for such a grand celebration since he had only defeated a few Empyrean walkers. However, he could not dissuade Elder Rian and the others. A few days after the celebration feast, Chu Kuangren received a piece of news. Oh, Linglong is preparing to ascend the throne? Chu Kuangren could not help but be surprised when he saw the Royal Azure Dynasty ruler's message. Princess Linglong of the Royal Azure Dynasty was about to ascend the throne, and Chu Kuangren had no reason to reject her invitation. The next day, Chu Kuangren brought Lan Yu to the Royal Azure Dynasty. At this time, the Royal Azure Dynasty was also very lively. The news of Princess Linglong's ascension had spread like wildfire in a short period of time. Although it was rare for a woman to be in charge of politics, it was not unprecedented in the history of the Royal Azure Dynasty. Moreover, Princess Linglong's reputation in the Royal Azure Dynasty had been growing over the years, so no one objected. Of course, even if there were, it would be easily suppressed. It did not take long for Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu to arrive at the Royal Azure Palace. The Royal Azure Dynasty ruler and Princess Linglong came out to welcome them. "Fiancé, you're here." "Yes, it's your ascension ceremony. Of course I have to come." Chu Kuangren looked at the dazzling Princess Linglong and smiled. "Ha, my dear son-in-law, the news of you defeating 4 Empyrean walkers has spread like wildfire. You're indeed the best." The Royal Azure Dynasty ruler laughed. "Father, you flatter me." Then, the Royal Azure Dynasty ruler hosted a banquet for Chu Kuangren. At the banquet, many of the royal family members were present. Some of the capital city's socialites looked at Chu Kuangren with admiration in their eyes. They looked at Princess Linglong with envy. The princess and her fiancé are really a match made in heaven. That's right. The fiancé is the Black Heaven sect leader, the most popular person in the world today. On the other hand, the princess is going to ascend the throne in 2 days and take control of the Royal Azure Dynasty. The two of them are well matched. The socialites were truly envious. Princess Linglong also had a faint smile on her face. Chu Kuangren, on the other hand, maintained a gentle smile on his face, which made the socialites' hearts race. Nevertheless, they did not dare to have any ideas about him. They knew very well that with their status, it was impossible for them to get involved with Chu Kuangren. Chapter 351. At the banquet, Chu Kuangren noticed Guchanga, who was sitting at the side. She was originally the crown prince, so logically speaking, she should be the one to ascend the throne. Now, it was Princess Linglong who was going to ascend the throne. Chu Kuangren would not have been surprised even if the emperor was unwilling and angry. However, at this moment, the emperor was chatting happily with the princes beside him. He did not seem to be angry at the fact that his throne had been taken away. Chu Kuangren was secretly surprised. Had she become so broad-minded after not seeing her for a few years? He thought about it for a while and decided to ignore it. The Royal Azure Dynasty king must have told Guchanga about Linglong's ascension to the throne. He must have done some mental preparation. Soon, the banquet ended. One by one, the royal family walked out of the palace. What a pity! The throne should have been the crown prince's. Who would have thought that Linglong would appear out of nowhere? That's right. But Linglong is also extraordinary. She's very resourceful, or else father wouldn't have valued her so much. Most importantly, her fiancé is Chu Kuangren. That's her biggest trump card. It's no wonder that father would choose her. TSK, what a shame. The crown prince may look fine on the surface, but who knows how frustrated he must be. The two princes walked out of the palace with their arms around each other's shoulders, tipsy. Suddenly, they bumped into someone. When they looked up, it was Guchanga standing in front of them. Both of them straightened their faces and quickly bowed. "Greetings, Your Highness. Our apologies for bumping into you, Your Highness. We're a little drunk." "No worries." Guchanga smiled faintly. "If there's nothing else, we'll take our leave." Both of them did not dare to stay any longer. Who knew how much of their conversation Guchanga had heard? If they were to pursue the matter, they would be in deep trouble. "The sky is dark. Since you two are a little drunk, please be careful." Guchanga acted like a caring elder brother. "Thank you for the reminder, Your Highness. We'll be careful." Both of them slowly left. Guchanga did not do anything and left as well. Not far away, Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu watched everything unfold. "This Guchanga has changed a lot. Young master, do you think he's faking it?" Lan Yu said with a frown. Chu Kuangren shook his head. "I don't know. Guchanga had changed a lot. Those who didn't know might think that he had been possessed by someone. However, Chu Kuangren had used his eye of revelation to observe her. She was still the same Guchanga. Aside from her slightly stronger cultivation level, there were not many other changes to her. She did not seem to have been possessed either. It doesn't matter if he's faking it or if his personality has really changed. As long as he doesn't pose any threat to Linglong, everything will be fine." "Let's go, we should head back too," Chu Kuangren said. "Yes." Inside the palace, the royal Azure Dynasty king had specially arranged for Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu to stay in their respective palaces. Even if the two of them were not around, there would be someone to take care of the place. As long as the two of them came to the palace, they could move in at any time. The night before Ling Long's coronation ceremony, a maidservant arrived at Chu Kuangren's palace. "Prince consort, the princess would like to invite you over." "Is something the matter?" Chu Kuangren was rather surprised. "This servant does not know." "All right, I got it." Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. He followed the maidservant to Ling Long's palace and saw her standing in front of a bronze mirror. She was dressed in an incomparably gorgeous royal robe, like a high and mighty queen, exuding an air of nobility. "Prince consort, this is the dress for tomorrow's coronation ceremony. Do you think it looks good?" Princess Ling Long opened her arms and smiled. The royal robe was embroidered with mountains, rivers, and auspicious beasts. The crimson skirt dragged on the ground like a blazing fire. Ling Long wore a phoenix hairpin on her head. Her silky black hair flowed down her back like washed silk, and the dress on her chest was embroidered with a peony that symbolized nobility. She was beautiful, but at the same time, she exuded a noble aura that could not be offended. Graceful and luxurious, showing off the demeanor of an empress. Chu Kuangren let out a heartfelt compliment with a smile. Ling Long, who was praised, revealed a smile on her face. Then she shot a glance at the maidservant beside her. The maidservant understood tacitly, bowed, and then excused herself. Only Ling Long and Chu Kuangren were left in the palace. "Prince consort, it's all thanks to you that I'm able to reach where I am today and become the empress. Allow me to propose a toast to you." Princess Ling Long flicked her sleeves and 2 cups and a pot of wine appeared on the table. Chu Kuangren smiled. "You're too kind, princess." Both of them chatted as they drank. Since it was just the two of them, Princess Ling Long opened her heart to Chu Kuangren and told him many things that outsiders did not know. Outsiders only saw her appearance, but they did not know how much effort she had put in to ascend to the throne. Since young, aside from cultivation, she had to learn all sorts of scriptures, the mind of an emperor, and deal with the ministers of the imperial court. "I'm very happy. Tomorrow I can finally ascend to that position. I will definitely bring peace to the world and bring peace to the world." Princess Ling Long spoke of her ambition. After 3 rounds of wine, she did not use her cultivation to dispel the alcohol. Her face was flushed red, which made her already noble look even more seductive. "But there's something I'm even happier about." Princess Ling Long stared at Chu Kuangren and smiled. "That is, I've gotten to know you, Prince Consort. Although I haven't spent a lot of time with you, I believe that I've enjoyed every moment that I've spent with you." She got up and slowly walked towards Chu Kuangren. She stretched out her slender finger and drew a circle on Chu Kuangren's chest. Her eyes were a little misty as she said, "I wonder if you've ever fallen for me, Prince Consort?" Looking at the tipsy Princess Ling Long before him, Chu Kuangren's heart skipped a beat. He grabbed her arm, pulled her into his arms, and bent down to pick her up. "Ah!" Princess Ling Long could not help but scream when her body was suddenly lifted into the air. Chu Kuangren looked at Princess Ling Long in his arms and smirked. "I'm very touched now." Princess Ling Long heard him and hooked her arms around Chu Kuangren's neck. She whispered into his ear, "Stay for tonight." "As you wish, Your Majesty." Chu Kuangren carried Princess Ling Long to the bed. He then reached out to take off his robe. However, Chu Kuangren was quite frustrated when he was taking off the royal robe. "Why is this royal robe so troublesome? It's one piece at a time." "Heh, are you panicking now?" "I'm dying of anxiety." After some effort, the royal robe was taken off one by one. Then, the bead curtains fluttered in the wind and the bed creaked. Sorrowful moans could be heard. The battle went from one end to the other, from once to twice, then thrice, until the sky turned bright. "Your Highness, the coronation ceremony is about to begin." The servant's voice came from outside the door. Princess Ling Long slowly woke up and looked at Chu Kuangren, who was sleeping in her arms. She smiled and got up to put on her clothes. However, she frowned as if she had touched a sore spot. She seemed to have thought of something and looked at the sleeping Chu Kuangren. She blushed and muttered, "This guy doesn't know how to control himself." Chapter 352. Chu Kuangren's eyelashes fluttered as he slowly woke up. He got up and yawned, feeling refreshed and refreshed. Beside him, Princess Linglong was already dressed with the help of a servant girl. He watched from the side with a smile in his eyes. Princess Linglong initially wanted to pretend that she did not see it, but she could not help but admit defeat under his gaze. Her fiancé was just too good-looking, especially when he looked at her with a smile in his eyes. It was so unbearable that her body felt like jelly. "Fiancé, what are you looking at? Why aren't you dressed?" "Princess, you look a little weird today." "Weird?" Princess Linglong looked into the mirror. "What do you mean? You look good." Princess Linglong was speechless. The servant girl beside her could not help but laugh. She did not expect the Black Heaven sect leader, who was on par with the royal Azure dynasty, to have such a side to him. "You may leave now," Princess Linglong said to the servant girl. "All right." After the maidservant left, Princess Linglong looked at Chu Kuangren and said helplessly, "It's fortunate that she's my personal maidservant. Otherwise, if word of your glib tongue were to spread, your reputation as the honorable sect leader would be ruined." "If it's ruined, then so be it. I don't care," Chu Kuangren said nonchalantly. Then, with Princess Linglong's help, Chu Kuangren put on his clothes. Both of them then walked out of the bedroom and headed towards the ceremony. "Welcome, Your Majesty." At the ceremony, the officials stood neatly in a row. Princess Linglong was dressed in a royal robe. She looked dignified as she walked towards a high platform. Behind her, two servant girls were holding up the hem of her dress. Chu Kuangren watched from the side. He could not understand why the gown had to be designed in such a way. It was so complicated. It took him a lot of effort to undo it yesterday. If not for the fact that he had to use it for the ceremony today, he would have torn it apart. Incense to the heavens. I, Gu Linglong, the 17th ruler of the royal Azure dynasty, hereby pray to the heavens. May the heavens bless the royal Azure dynasty with good weather. After a round of prayers, the royal Azure dynasty king handed the imperial seal to Linglong. With that, the ceremony was over. "Greetings, Your Majesty." "Greetings, Your Majesty." The officials kowtowed. Linglong had become the royal Azure dynasty king. The nine-headed snake-let pearl disappeared? After the coronation ceremony ended, Linglong and the royal Azure dynasty ruler received a piece of news that caused their expressions to change. Beside him, Chu Kuangren was rather surprised. "Nine-headed snake-let pearl? What is that?" "Fiancé, you may not know this, but the nine-headed snakelet pearl is one of the treasures of the royal Azure dynasty. It was crafted from the holy spirit of an ancient beast, the nine-headed snakelet, and has been sealed deep within the palace." At this point, Linglong frowned. If the nine-headed infant pearl is gone, then why don't we see the guardian of the nine-headed infant pearl? Where is he now? In reply to the Empress, Elder Lu is dead. The guard who came to report said, Elder Lu was the guardian of the nine-headed snakelet pearl. He was an existence that was close to becoming an honorable supreme. There were not many people in the Royal Azure Sky Palace who could kill him. "Hurry up and investigate who did this," Linglong said with an ugly expression. It was only the first day of his ascension to the throne, and such a thing had already happened. This was a slap to her face. If this matter was not handled well, it would definitely have a significant impact on her prestige as the new empress. There's no need to investigate. It was done by Guchanga. At that moment, an old man walked into the palace. Upon seeing this person, the royal Azure dynasty king went up to him. "Sage, you're here. You said that this was done by Changa. What happened?" This old man was one of the sages of the royal Azure dynasty. Not long ago, Guchanga went to the nine-headed snakelet pavilion, killed the guardian, and took the nine-headed snakelet pearl. When I realized this, I wanted to capture him, but I didn't expect him to have a secret treasure on him. I chased after him to no avail, and he escaped. At this point, the sage's expression turned ugly. Unfilial son, this unfilial son. The royal Azure Dynasty king was furious. He wanted to leave the palace to look for Wuchanga, but he was stopped by the sage. Calm down. Sage, don't stop me. I must capture this unfilial son and bring him back. The royal Azure Dynasty king said angrily. Father, please calm down first. There are still some strange things that we haven't figured out yet. Princess Linglong also tried to persuade him. What else is there to figure out? This unfilial son must be unhappy that I didn't pass the throne to him. That's why he stole the 9-headed snakelet pearl. Firstly, even if Wuchanga was unhappy, why would he use such a method to take revenge? Secondly, there are so many treasures in the palace, why would he target the 9-headed snakelet pearl? Is there something special about this 9-headed snakelet pearl? At that moment, Chu Kuangren spoke. At his words, the royal Azure Dynasty king and the sage looked at each other. Beside them, Princess Linglong had a serious look on her face as she said, I'm afraid this has something to do with the 9-head clan. The 9-head clan, the royal Azure Dynasty's nemesis? That's right. The 9-head clan has always worshipped this ferocious beast, the 9-headed snakelet. All these years, they've attempted to enter the palace to steal the 9-headed snakelet pearl, but they've all failed, Princess Linglong said. Does this mean that after Wuchanga stole the 9-headed snakelet pearl, he'll most likely head to the 9-head clan? Chu Kuangren asked. That's possible. Princess Linglong nodded. I'll send troops to the 9-head clan and bring Wuchanga back. That's not a good idea. You've just ascended to the throne, so your foundation isn't stable yet. If you recklessly start a war with the 9-head clan, your chances of winning are slim, the royal Azure Dynasty king said. I'll go. At that moment, Chu Kuangren said. Everyone looked at him. Since I don't have much to do these days, I'll pay a visit to the 9-head clan. If Wuchanga is really there, I believe they'll give me face. Probably. Chu Kuangren smiled. The royal Azure Dynasty king and the others looked at each other. If Brother Chu is willing to go, then it won't be a problem. I'll have to trouble you then. The royal Azure Dynasty sage bowed and said, No problem. Chu Kuangren smiled. He did not stay in the palace for long and departed the next day. Inside the 9-head clan, a young man dressed in black held a rainbow-colored bead in his hand. The bead was glowing with light, and inside it was a 9-headed serpent that was letting out bursts of roars. It was the 9-headed snakelet pearl that was stolen from the royal Azure Dynasty palace. Brotherly, now that I've obtained the 9-headed snakelet pearl, I wonder if you've promised to let me join the craggy ocean tower. Behind the black-robed man stood a person. It was Wuchanga. The black-robed man smiled. Rest assured, Brother Gu. Since you've helped me with this, I'll let you join the craggy ocean tower. Not only that, but I'll also request the sect leader to let you become a Daoist. That's much better than being a king. Hearing the words of the man in black, Wuchanga's eyes lit up and he looked a little excited. Thank you, fellow Li. The craggy ocean tower was one of the unknown lands, and its resources were much stronger than the royal Azure Dynasties. To Wuchanga, as long as he could join the craggy ocean tower and become a Daoist, his future would be bright. Once I become a core member of the craggy ocean tower, the royal Azure Dynasty will be my oyster. What royal Azure Dynasty king? I don't care. Wuchanga snorted. Chapter 353. On the way to the 9-head clan, Chu Kuangren held in his hand a drawing that he bought from a hawker. On the drawing was a strange snake with 9 heads, and its ferocious appearance sent chills down the spines of anyone who saw it. An ancient wild beast, the 9-headed snakelet. Rumor has it that this wild beast is good at controlling fire and water. I didn't expect the 9-head clan to worship such a wild beast. Interesting. Chu Kuangren smiled. Beside him, Lan Yu also looked at the drawing curiously. How ugly. It's not as pretty as Lil Red, Lan Yu said. Of course, one is an auspicious divine beast while the other is a wild beast. There's no comparison. However, this 9-headed snakelet is not to be underestimated either. If we were to rank it according to its bloodline, the nine-headed snakelet is second only to the divine beasts. Chu Kuangren said. Then, he looked at the barren Daoist prefecture. We're only 300 kilometers away from the Blackwater prefecture where the nine-head clan is. Let's go. We should be there by today. Inside a tent in the nine-head clan. Everyone, once young Master Li awakens the nine-headed snakelet, will be able to conquer the Daoist prefecture. The nine-head clan leader was enjoying wine and meat as he talked about the bright future with the elders. The rest of the elders were also excited. At that moment, a thunderous roar came from outside. Dark clouds gathered and a storm descended from the sky. D***minute, I've had enough of this H***ty place. It's always raining torrents and floods. One of the elders snorted. Hearing his words, the rest of the elders also looked at him with disdain. Although this was the place where they grew up, they had no nostalgia for this place. All they felt was disdain. As long as we conquer the Royal Azure Dynasty, the vast Daoist prefecture will be ours. By then, we can get whatever resources we want. That's right. This is all thanks to the young master. It's all thanks to his foresight that we could get the nine-headed snakelet pearl from him. I can't wait to have some fun at the Royal Azure Dynasty Palace. The elders laughed heartily. At that moment, a member of the nine-head clan rushed into the tent. That person was panicking and his eyes were filled with fear as he said, "Clan leader, bad news." "What happened? Why are you so panicked?" "Chu Kuangren is here." Everyone's expressions changed when they heard this. "Why is he here? Wait, is he here because of Guchanga?" The nine-head clan leader's expression froze. Only then did he and the other elders remember that Chu Kuangren was not only the Black Heaven Sect's sect leader, but he was also Linglong's husband. He was also the king consort of the Royal Azure Dynasty, which meant that he had countless ties with the Royal Azure Dynasty. "Come, let's go meet this Chu Kuangren," the nine-head clan leader said after a moment of silence. They walked out of the tent. Within the torrential downpour, two people stood there. One was a man and one was a woman. Both of them were peerless geniuses. Around them, there was an invisible barrier that easily blocked out all the rain. The ground was covered with muddy water, the sky was raining, and the wind was howling. On the other hand, these two people were untainted by even a speck of dust. It was as if they were isolated from the world. They stood aloof from the world and were breathtaking. A strange look flashed across the nine-head clan leader's eyes. He then slowly walked towards Chu Kuangren and Linglong and said with a smile, "Sect leader Chu, your presence brings light to our humble nine-head clan. All right, I'll skip the pleasantries. Hand over Guchanga and the nine-headed snakelet pearl," Chu Kuangren said. The nine-head clan leader was taken aback. "Sect leader Chu, what are you talking about? Guchanga is the Royal Azure Dynasty's crown prince. Why would he be here? And what's the nine-headed snakelet pearl? You can't hide the truth by pretending to be ignorant. I advise you to hand it over before I decide to be rough with you," Ling Yun said. "Sect leader Chu, I'm really..." Before the nine-head clan leader could finish his sentence, an inexplicable chill appeared amidst the torrential rain and enveloped half of the nine-head clan settlement. "I'm running out of patience. Please speak cautiously, clan leader," Chu Kuangren said. The rain was loud and Chu Kuangren's voice was not loud, but the nine-head clan leader could hear him clearly. At that moment, his heart turned cold and he felt as if the blood in his body was about to freeze. "Sect leader Chu, don't you think you're being a little too overbearing by forcing the nine-head clan to hand it over?" At that moment, an old voice could be heard. An old man suddenly appeared in the void. This old man was wearing a robe, and he stared at Chu Kuangren with a displeased look on his face. Chu Kuangren glanced at him. He was the sage of the nine-head clan, a third-step sage. Then, Chu Kuangren slowly raised his arm, and a majestic Buddhist light formed into a giant golden palm that slammed towards the old man. The rainwater was blasted apart by that attack, turning into a mist that filled the sky. "What?" The old man's expression changed. He did not expect Chu Kuangren to attack so suddenly. Caught off guard, he quickly channeled his spiritual power to gather the rainwater around him and formed a giant water pillar that smashed towards him. The two energies collided. Then, the water pillar was shattered by the giant golden palm, and the violent energy swept out and landed on the old man's body. In an instant, the old man was sent flying and landed heavily on the ground. His clean robe was stained with muddy water. A sage like him looked like a beggar by the roadside. "Chu Kuangren, you've gone too far," the Nine-Head clan leader said angrily. However, as soon as he said that, a powerful sword-based Daoist rhyme spread out and enveloped the sky above the Nine-Head clan. Everyone in the Nine-Head clan, including the clan leader and the sages, felt their scalps go numb. Under the influence of that Daoist rhyme, the rainwater around them seemed to have turned into sharp blades that could slice them into pieces at any moment. "I've told you that I'm running out of patience. If you dare to utter another word, you won't be able to live even if the Nine-Head clan has 9 heads. I'll ask you again, where's Guchanga and the 9-headed snakelet pearl?" Chu Kuangren said coldly. The Nine-Head clan leader and the sages who were lying on the ground were so furious that their mouths twitched. However, there was nothing they could do. Too domineering. This person was really too domineering. Annihilating the Nine-Head clan. How could he say something like that? However, the Nine-Head clan leader did not doubt that Chu Kuangren was capable of such a thing. Chu Kuangren had wreaked havoc in the Deep Sea Scale tribe, and the Nine-Head clan was far weaker than the Deep Sea Scale tribe. How could they possibly stand up to Chu Kuangren? The 9-headed snakelet Pearl and Guchanga did come to the Nine-Head clan, but they're no longer here, the Nine-Head clan leader said. He had given in to Chu Kuangren. "Oh, where did they go?" "The Black Swamp." The Nine-Head clan leader gritted his teeth and said, "Why did they go there?" "To help the young master revive the 9-headed snakelet lord." Chu Kuangren was surprised. "Revive the 9-headed snakelet lord? Are you saying that they're going to revive the 9-headed snakelet?" "That's right." The 9-head clan leader then explained everything. It turned out that an Empyrean walker had recently arrived in the 9-head clan, and this Empyrean walker also had the bloodline of the 9-head clan. This was because he had become the young master of the 9-head clan. In order to revive the 9-headed snakelet, he had bribed Guchanga, who had been dispirited in the royal Azure dynasty, to steal the legendary 9-headed snakelet pearl for him. Chapter 354. The Onyx Swamp was a forbidden area of the 9-head clan. It was a densely packed swamp that contained a large amount of poisonous gas. Even an honorable would feel uncomfortable if they were to enter this place. At that moment, 2 people were walking in the Onyx Swamp. One of them was in front while the other was at the back. The one leading the way was the Empyrean walker from the craggy ocean tower, Li Zhe. Behind him was the crown prince of the royal Azure dynasty, Guchanga. The 2 of them walked all the way to the depths of the Onyx Swamp. In this place, there was a terrifying and unparalleled ferocious beast. It had a pile of heads, and its body was more than 10,000 feet long, the 9-headed dragon. Although the 9-headed snakelet was lying on the ground and looked like it had been dead for a long time, its ferocious and violent aura still lingered on its body. No living creature dared to approach the Onyx Swamp. In fact, the black swamp beneath Li Zhe and Guchanga's feet was caused by the leaking aura of the other party. As expected of an ancient wild beast. It has been dead for so many years, yet it still has such an aura. Li Zhe's eyes burned with passion. If he had the help of such a wild beast, he would definitely be able to take the lead in this era of great battles and obtain most of the emperor opportunities. Even the legendary Chu Kuangren would not be a match for it. The more he thought about it, the more excited he became. This trip to the 9-head clan was the right choice. Buzz. At that moment, the 9-headed snakelet pearl in Li Zhe's hand seemed to have sensed the presence of the 9-headed snakelet's corpse. It began to vibrate violently, and the 9-headed snakelet's sage spirit let out a series of baby-like cries. The 9-headed snakelet's corpse was also vibrating slightly. The sage spirit and the physical body resonated with each other. Guchanga exclaimed beside him. No wonder the Nine-Head clan has been trying to get their hands on the nine-headed snakelet pearl all these years. It's because there's a nine-headed snakelet's corpse hidden in the Nine-Head clan. But where did this nine-headed snakelet come from? It's all because of the founding emperor of the Royal Azure dynasty. Tens of thousands of years ago, the founding emperor of the Royal Azure dynasty led an army to kill the nine-headed snakelet and used a formation to extract its sage spirit to refine this nine-headed snakelet pearl. In the end, Jiao Ying exhausted the last of his holy spirit energy and charged out of the formation. He ran to the Blackwater state and fell into a river. His body was covered in wounds, and his blood dyed the entire river red. At that time, there was a tribe at the lower reaches of the river. They drank the water from the river and were tainted with the blood of the nine-headed snakelet. They then found the body of the nine-headed snakelet and brought it back to worship it. This was the origin of the Nine-Head clan, and also the reason why the Nine-Head clan and the Royal Azure dynasty are enemies. Other than the fight for resources, there's also this grudge. Li Zhe spoke slowly. Then, he tossed the nine-headed snakelet pearl into the nine-headed snakelet's body. His eyes were burning with passion. And today, the god of the Nine-Head clan, the nine-headed snakelet, will finally return to the world. As the nine-headed snakelet pearl fused into the nine-headed snakelet's body, the scales on the surface of the nine-headed snakelet began to tremble. The originally lifeless body suddenly erupted with an extremely terrifying aura that swept through the entire swamp. Not long after, the eyes on the nine heads of the nine-headed snakelet opened one by one. Its body coiled up and it roared towards the sky. A peerless and savage aura spread out. The peerless beast from tens of thousands of years ago had once again descended upon the world. So powerful, under the nine-headed snakelet's aura, Wuxia could not help but tremble. The nine-headed snakelet's nose twitched. Its 9 pairs of blood-red, lantern-like eyes stared at Wuxia and Li Zhe. Kid, the aura on you too is very strange. One is of the same origin as me, the other has the bloodline of my enemy. As soon as he finished speaking, a terrifying murderous aura gushed out and landed on Wuxia's body, pressing him to the ground. Beside him, Li Zhe stood where he was and looked at the nine-headed snakelet. Congratulations on your revival, nine-headed snakelet. So, you're the one who sent my Holy Spirit back. Very well, kid, you've done well. Seeing that you have a trace of my bloodline, I can promise you one thing. Speak. The nine-headed snakelet's voice was neither male nor female, and it was extremely sharp. It sounded as if it was about to pierce through one's eardrums. But Li Zhe did not mind at all. Very well, I want you to be my mount and accompany me to conquer the world. Hearing this, the nine-headed snakelet was stunned. Then, it let out a sharp roar and a terrifying murderous aura poured out like a flood. Kid, how dare you? The nine-headed snakelet was an ancient beast with a noble bloodline. Asking him to be a human cultivator's mount was ridiculous. Humph, we still don't know who's the one being presumptuous. Li Zhe's eyes turned cold. Then, with a thought, the nine-headed snakelet's pupils shrank. An intense pain shot through his mind, causing him to roll around on the ground, his 9 heads swinging back and forth. The entire black swamp shook violently. B** starred. Arg, it hurts. Li Zhe stood where he was and said calmly, the Nine-Head clan respects you like a god, but unfortunately, I'm different. I'm the craggy ocean tower's Empyrean walker. I was born to reach the top. Nine-headed snakelet, you have no choice but to submit to me. Li Zhe stood proudly and his words were domineering. The nine-headed snakelet was enraged and roared, what did you do to me? Craggy Ocean Tower. This is a secret beast taming technique of the Craggy Ocean Tower. I've planted your Holy Spirit in Craggy Ocean Tower. With a single thought, your Holy Spirit will feel as if it's being crushed by the mountains and seas. Do you really think that I'll return your Holy Spirit to you without doing anything? Li Zhe said. Then he retracted the power of Craggy Ocean Tower. The nine-headed snakelet gradually recovered from the pain. He looked at Li Zhe with fear and said, Craggy Ocean Tower, I've never heard of this name. Empyrean Walker, Could it be that you're from one of those unknown lands? Nine-headed snakelet, times have changed. This is the great Tao manifestation era of great battles. Various unknown lands have appeared, and all sorts of sky prides have appeared. I'll give you one more chance. Submit to me and accompany me to the top. In the future, when I become an emperor, you'll also rise to the top. The nine-headed snakelet's eyes flashed with a hint of struggle. However, due to his fear of craggy ocean tower, he had no choice but to nod and submit. A wise move, Li Zhe said. However, my physical body has been lying around for a long time. Even though it hasn't decayed yet, its vitality is fading. I need a large amount of flesh and blood to recover my strength. Also, this fellow is the bloodline of my enemy. I'm going to eat him. The nine-headed snakelet looked at Guchanga and said coldly, Brother Li, save me. Up to you. Guchanga looked at Li Zhe in fear. He did not expect Li Zhe, who had promised to let him enter the craggy ocean tower, to go back on his word and allow the nine-headed snakelet to eat him. Guchanga turned around and tried to escape, but the power of water and fire gushed out of the nine-headed snakelet's mouth and landed on his back. His internal organs, bones, and flesh were smashed to pieces. In just one move, he was severely injured by the nine-headed snakelet. Then, the nine-headed snakelet opened his mouth and swallowed Guchanga into his stomach amidst his terrified screams. Oh, it's still a Daoist physique. It can recover quite a bit of my strength. Next, it's over there. Most of my bloodline is gathered there. If I eat them, I'll be able to recover even faster. The nine-headed snakelet looked at the nine-head clan in the distance and licked his lips. Li Zhe frowned slightly when he heard this. Then he relaxed his brows. Sure, I don't have any feelings for this clan anyway. If they can help you recover faster, their deaths will be worth it. Chapter 355. A long howl was heard accompanied by ferocious chi. Everyone in the nine-head tribe sensed the aura. The nine-head tribe leader and the others were overjoyed as they looked towards the direction of the black swamp. It's a success. The young master has successfully revived the nine-headed snakelet lord. This is great. The nine-head tribe's glory day is upon us. The nine-head tribe members looked into the distance with fervent gazes. Some of them even knelt down and kowtowed towards the nine-headed snakelet. Chu Kuangren, on the other hand, was unmoved. Looks like we were too slow to revive the nine-headed snakelet. Judging from this aura, it's indeed extraordinary. Is it close to the level of a sage ruler? Chu Kuangren murmured. Not long after, the ferocious chi was getting closer and closer. The nine-head tribe leader and the others immediately rushed out of the tribe and knelt on the ground, ready to welcome the nine-headed snakelet lord. From afar, a gigantic black shadow was slowly approaching. That black shadow was a giant nine-headed snake that was more than 1,000 feet long. It was covered in black scales, its head was ferocious, and its blood-red eyes exuded an endless amount of ferocious chi. To the nine-head tribe leader and the others, it was so majestic and holy that they could not help but worship it from the bottom of their hearts. Welcome, sage ruler. Welcome, sage ruler. The nine-head tribe leader and the others knelt on the ground and said loudly. The nine-headed snakelet was confused. What's going on? Why is this food being served on a plate? I won't hold back then. The nine-headed snakelet chuckled. Under the nine-head tribe leader's fervent gaze, it opened its mouth and bit down on the kneeling nine-head tribe members. Large amounts of blood mixed with internal organs splattered out. The nine-head tribe leader's body was splashed with blood. The scene before him stunned him and he could not react for a while. It was only when he heard cries of agony that he realized what was going on. The nine-headed snakelet was devouring his tribe members. Delicious, delicious. It's been a while since I've had such a good meal. The nine-headed snakelet's 9 heads kept popping out, and the 9-head tribe members were bitten into pieces and swallowed them into his stomach. His abdomen glowed with a faint red light, and a blood mist surrounded his black scales. The 9-headed infant, which had not been nourished for tens of thousands of years, was like a withered tree. At this moment, it hungrily devoured flesh and blood to recover its strength. The entire nine-head tribe turned into a living hell in an instant. Chaos ensued. Screams, howls, and cries filled the air. Everyone was shrouded in despair. It was not the fear of death. Instead, it was a kind of despair from the collapse of faith. None of the nine-head tribesmen expected that the god they worshipped would do such a thing to them after his resurrection. They revered the Jiao-ing as a god, but the Jiao-ing saw them as food. How could this be? How could this be? The nine-head clan leader looked at the scene in disbelief. He looked at Jiao-ing, who was crazily devouring his clansmen, and his eyes were bloodshot. He rushed in front of Jiao-ing and loudly asked, "Holy Lord, why are you doing this to us?" "Why?" What he got in response was Jiao-ying's bloody mouth. The nine-head clan leader dodged the attack in a flustered manner. Just as he was about to say something, his vision suddenly turned dark. It was as if he had fallen into a damp cave filled with mucus. Then he felt a sharp pain and he lost consciousness. To the others, it looked like the nine-head clan leader had dodged one of the Jiao-ying's heads but was swallowed by the other head. The two heads of the Jiao-ing looked at each other. Did that guy say anything? I don't know. Who cares? Let's eat first. The Jiao-ing then ignored him. His nine heads continued to move and devour the fleeing nine-head tribesmen. At that moment, a palm chi mixed with rainwater came from afar and landed on one of the Jiao-ying's heads. That head tilted and looked into the distance, only to see an old man in plain clothes glaring at him with hatred and despair. A sage? Hee, it must taste even better. The Jiao-ing did not care at all. That head that was hit only shook a little. After taking a palm strike from a sage, it did not suffer much damage. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up when he saw that physique. Die, you monster! The nine-head clan's sage roared and unleashed one palm strike after another. His attacks were mixed with rainwater and sometimes even flames. The Jiao-ing was an expert in controlling fire and water. Since the nine-head clan possessed a trace of the Jiao-ying's bloodline, most of their cultivation techniques were related to fire and water. The water and fire palm chi landed on the Jiao-ying's body one after another. Each palm strike was powerful enough to split mountains and break rivers, but after dozens of palm strikes, they only managed to break the Jiao-ying's scales and leave some superficial wounds. That scene made the nine-head clan's sage despair. Suddenly, he saw a person standing on one of the Jiao-ying's heads. The person was dressed in black and had a cold expression. It was Li Zhe. The nine-head clan's sage's eyes lit up when he saw him. He yelled, "Young master, quick, stop this monster." Unexpectedly, Li Zhe only stared at him coldly. "Why should I stop him? The Jiao-ing has just awakened, so he needs a large amount of blood and flesh essences to recover his strength. Don't you all worship him like a god? If that's the case, what's the point of sacrificing blood and flesh for the sake of a god?" The nine-head clan sage was in disbelief. "Young master, how could you say something like that? You're also a member of the nine-head clan. So what if I am? But to be honest, I left the nine-head clan a long time ago and have been staying in the craggy ocean tower all these years. I don't have much affection for you all. Your lives are not as important as my great cause." Li Zhe said mercilessly. "You be ****starred. The nine-head clan sage was furious. Li Zhe's expression turned cold. He then slowly raised his hand, and a terrifying surge of Daoist rhyme gathered in his palm. He then blasted it out, forming a ferocious beast silhouette in the void. The nine-head clan sage, who had expended a large amount of spiritual power to deal with the Jiao-ing, could not resist that surge of power. He was blasted away by that surge of power, spitting out a mouthful of blood. The Jiao-ing then stretched his head out and swallowed him. After eating a sage, his aura became stronger, and the blood mist around his body became denser. Not long after, half of the nine-head clan sage was devoured by the Jiao-ing. Chu Kuangren, who had been watching from the sidelines, slowly walked out with Lan Yu and looked at the giant serpent and Li Zhe. Meanwhile, Li Zhe had also noticed the two of them. "Oh, such an extraordinary aura," Such looks, and that sword. If I'm not mistaken, you must be Chu Kuangren. That's right. You're here for Guchanga. That's true. You're too late. That guy has already been eaten by the Jiaoying. He should be digested by now, Li Zhe said. Is that so? What a shame. Although he said that, Chu Kuangren did not look sorry at all. He looked at Li Zhe and the Jiaoying helplessly and said, I'm here for Guchanga and the nine-headed snakelet pearl, but it seems like I won't be able to find either of them. I have to find a way to report back. Why don't I take both of your lives? Chapter 356. Why don't I take both of your lives? Chu Kuangren said calmly. As soon as he said that, a layer of chilling intent enveloped the entire area. The rain seemed to have turned into sharp blades. Li Zhe's eyes turned cold when he heard Chu Kuangren's words. You want to kill me? Do you know that I have the unknown lands backing me? I know, but what can I do if I kill one of them? Try me if you can. Li Zhe snorted. As he lifted his arm, a large amount of spiritual qi gathered in his palm and formed into a huge spiritual bird that flew out. On top of the bird, terrifying lightning energy surrounded it. Thousand Beasts Art, Thunderbird. Chu Kuangren calmly raised his hand when he saw that. Chu Kuangren unleashed a palm attack, shattering the raindrops that filled the sky. That so-called Thunderbird had been forcefully shattered by Chu Kuangren. That power made Li Zhe's pupils dilate. So powerful, as expected of the legendary Chu Kuangren. Li Zhe was secretly shocked. Meanwhile, the nine-headed snake let out a sharp roar as the raindrops gathered into a water spike and shot out. The nine-headed snakelet was an expert in controlling fire and water. Although he had not fully recovered from the storm, not everyone could block that seemingly ordinary water spike. Chu Kuangren lifted his arm and directed the earth qi to form a godly mountain. In the blink of an eye, the water spike exploded into mist. Is that all the nine-headed snakelet can do? Chu Kuangren stood with his hands behind his back and said with a hint of provocation in his eyes. How could a dignified ancient wild beast tolerate such provocation? It let out an enraged shriek, and the torrential rain froze for a moment. Then, countless raindrops transformed into water spikes and charged towards Chu Kuangren at an extreme speed. Chu Kuangren took out the lingering melody. He plucked the strings with his fingers and with a clang, the Guqin Daoist rhymes erupted, shattering the water spikes that were coming towards him. Resonant bell strike. Chu Kuangren flicked his finger and a terrifying sound wave instantly spread out, smashing onto the nine-headed snakelet's head. One of the nine-headed snakelet's head was smashed and it was extremely dizzy. The remaining 8 heads stared fiercely at Chu Kuangren as if they had been angered by him. Then they lunged forward to bite him. Li Zhe, who was standing on Jiao Ying's head, could only stand up and retreat a distance away when he saw Jiao Ying going berserk. He looked at Chu Kuangren, who was being attacked by the nine-headed snakelet, and sneered. Chu Kuangren, you're too arrogant. Even if the nine-headed snakelet has yet to fully recover its strength, its combat strength is still not something an ordinary sage can handle. Even a peak great sage would find it difficult to deal with. You? He's definitely going to die. The nine-headed snakelet was an ancient ferocious beast with extraordinary strength. Although its physical body had been dead for tens of thousands of years, after absorbing a large amount of flesh and blood essence from the Nine-Head clan, its strength was already half of its peak. To Li Zhe, Chu Kuangren was no match for his opponent. In fact, as Chu Kuangren continued to play his Guqin music, waves of Guqin Daoist rhymes erupted and blasted towards the nine-headed snakelet. Although he managed to block off the nine-headed snakelet's bite for the time being, it still consumed a lot of his spiritual power. Lan Yu, you can leave first. Lan Yu nodded slightly and retreated a few thousand feet. Chu Kuangren put away the lingering song Guqin. The descendant's self-sword at his waist was unsheathed, and a dazzling purple sword ray instantly soared into the sky and landed on the nine-headed snakelet's head. Sparks flew as the sword ray collided with the snake scales. In the end, the sword ray's sharpness broke through the snake scale's defense, and a large amount of blood gushed out like a fountain. It was like a rain of blood. One of the nine-headed snakelet's eyes was torn apart by the sword ray, and the excruciating pain made the nine-headed snakelet let out a shrill scream. "I'll eat you, I'll eat you. I'll definitely eat you up." The nine-headed snakelet roared. The excruciating pain triggered its ferocious chi, and it waved its 9 heads in the air. In an instant, the weather changed, and a terrifying Daoist rhyme shrouded the entire area. One of the 9-headed snakelet's heads spewed out flames, while the other spewed out black water. Whether it was flames or water, both were extremely terrifying. An ordinary sage would be injured even if they were just grazed by them. Chu Kuangren unleashed his phantom light strike technique and dodged the attacks at an extremely fast speed. Then, with a single thought, surges of sword chi shot out and intertwined in the air, forming multiple sword chi clones. Not long after, hundreds and thousands of sword chi clones surrounded the 9-headed snakelet. The 9-headed snakelet was dumbfounded at the sight. Is this an emperor technique? An emperor technique that can create clones? Not far away, Li Zhe was shocked as well. He could clearly feel that each of the sword chi clones' strength was no weaker than an honorable. If these hundreds and thousands of honorables attacked him together, he would be sliced into pieces in a matter of minutes. I can't believe Chu Kuangren has such a cultivation technique. No wonder he could defeat 4 Empyrean walkers in a row. His strength is indeed incredible. There's actually a sky pride of this level in the outside world. Before meeting Chu Kuangren in person, Li Zhe's impression of him was based on rumors and collected intelligence. However, after meeting him today, he realized that Chu Kuangren's combat strength was much more terrifying and shocking than he had imagined. Get rid of him. Chu Kuangren looked at the 9-headed snakelet and ordered. Upon receiving the order, the hundreds and thousands of sword chi clones instantly rushed out and unleashed a large amount of sword chi around the 9-headed snakelet. D*eminit. D*eminit. The 9-headed snakelet was enraged, and his 9 heads continuously spat out water and fire. Intense sword chi fluctuations erupted continuously. Although the 9-headed snakelet's physical strength was terrifying, Chu Kuangren's sword chi clones were not weak either. Moreover, each sword chi clone was holding a treasured sword in their hands. Each of them was a top-notch honorable weapon. Some of them were even sacred swords. After all, these swords had been nurtured in the sacred emerald sword case for so many years. Coupled with Chu Kuangren's continuous improvement in cultivation, even an ordinary sword of steel should have become an honorable weapon. This was the terrifying power of the sacred emerald sword case. Ordinary people could only nurture 2 or 3 weapons, but Chu Kuangren had the sacred emerald sword case. As long as the weapons he nurtured were not more powerful than emperor weapons, Chu Kuangren could nurture as many swords as the sword case could hold. Gradually, the 9-headed snakelet's body was covered in bloody scars. Although each of the scars was not deep, there were so many of them that they covered the 9-headed snakelet's entire body, dyeing his snake scales a bloody red. Faced with the joint attack of hundreds and thousands of sword chi clones, the 9-headed snakelet was reminded of the time when he was surrounded by the royal Azure dynasty's founding emperor. At that moment, the 9-headed snakelet's rage had reached its peak. The ferocious chi on his body spread like waves, accompanied by a terrifying burst of water and fire Daoist rhymes. Under the impact of this Daoist rhyme, the sword chi clones in the air burst like bubbles, and the long swords in their hands fell to the ground. Not far away, Li Zhe breathed a sigh of relief. As expected, Chu Kuangren can't kill the 9-headed snakelet with his current strength. Although the 9-headed snakelet looks battered now, the injuries he sustained are only superficial. It won't affect his combat strength much. At that thought, he looked at Chu Kuangren's real body not far away. Chapter 357. At that moment, Chu Kuangren was sitting on a large green boulder with a bottle of wine in his hand. He was enjoying it. After the 9-headed snakelet destroyed all the sword chi clones, Chu Kuangren looked up. Oh, it's over. As expected of a wild beast. The corner of Li Zhe's mouth twitched. He felt that Chu Kuangren did not take the nine-headed snakelet seriously at all. No matter what, it was still an ancient wild beast. Can't you give me some face? B** starred, I'm going to eat you up. The nine-headed snakelet roared angrily and charged towards Chu Kuangren. However, at that moment, countless sword chi gushed out from the ground and intertwined in the air, forming a sword chi wall. The nine-headed snakelet's head smashed onto the sword chi wall and bounced back. What's going on? Li Zai's expression changed slightly. Then, he looked at the long swords that were scattered on the ground. Those long swords were vibrating at that moment, and the sword chi wall that gushed out was the work of those swords. Although there were no sword chi clones, those swords were emanating an even more terrifying sword chi. Sword formation, activate. Chu Kuangren said calmly. The swords that were scattered on the ground rose into the air and circled around the nine-headed snakelet's body, forming an incredibly mysterious sword formation. There were a total of 365 swords. It was the four-season sword formation. How does this guy have so many tricks up his sleeves? First it was the 8 celestial demonic chords, then the sword chi clones, and now this sword formation. Every single one of them was an incredible emperor-level technique. Yet Chu Kuangren, a guy who was not even a sage, had so many emperor-level techniques up his sleeves. It was a fantasy. Even the unknown lands might not have so many emperor-level techniques. The four-season sword formation was activated, and surges of sword chi shuttled back and forth within the sword formation. It was filled with a mysterious Daoist rhyme of the 4 seasons. Under such power, even the nine-headed snakelet felt pressured. Since I've broken through to the Honorable Supreme Realm, this is my first time using the 4-season sword formation. Let me test its power on you. Chu Kuangren smiled. The sword chi shuttled back and forth, continuously attacking the nine-headed snakelet's body. Its power was much stronger than when he used hundreds and thousands of sword chi clones. The Jiao-ing opened its mouth and spat out flames and water, crazily attacking the sword array. However, no matter what he did, the sword formation still showed no signs of breaking. With Chu Kuangren's current strength, no one below the level of a sage ruler would be able to break through this sword formation. Even a saint king could be trapped for a short period of time. Jiao-ing might have been able to break through this sword formation when he was at his peak, but now that he had just recovered, even if he had devoured a large amount of flesh and blood essence, there was still a certain gap between his strength and that of a true sage king. The 4 seasons rotated and everything changed. Within the sword formation, the endless sword chi in the sky transformed into a huge colorful sword shadow. It contained the mighty power of nature and smashed down on the nine-headed snakelet. This sword shadow landed directly on one of Jiao-ying's heads. The terrifying power had chopped off one of its heads. Boom, the mountain-like head landed on the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust. The Jiao-ing roared in agony. Not far away, Li Zai was horrified when he saw this scene. Jiao-ing was going to lose. No. I've spent so much effort and even used a secret technique like the craggy ocean pass on him. How can I let him die just like that? The nine-headed snakelet was an ancient wild beast with great potential. Even a sage ruler might not be his limit. If he continued to cultivate, there was a high chance that he could become an emperor in the future. How could Li Zai watch such a powerful assistant die? Craggy ocean bestial soul, Kuan. Li Zai let out a loud roar as the spiritual power in his body surged. An incredibly mysterious Daoist rhyme gushed out and intertwined in the void, forming a strange image that looked like a giant whale. The craggy ocean tower was a very ancient orthodoxy. Their cultivation techniques were obtained by observing the rare beasts in the world. Besides that, the high-level cultivators of the craggy ocean tower also possessed something called the craggy ocean bestial soul. It was created by capturing all kinds of rare beasts, extracting their souls, and refining them using a secret technique. A person could only have one bestial soul in their lifetime. Li Zai's craggy ocean bestial soul was a strange beast called the Kuan. It was a very powerful ancient wild beast, and its potential was not much weaker than an ancient wild beast like the nine-headed snakelet. In the craggy ocean tower, There were only a few bestial souls of this level. In the void, the image of the Kuan gradually materialized, and a majestic ancient wild beast, the Kuan, emerged. Howl. A strange howl reverberated in the void. Vaguely, the sound of a tsunami could be heard in the void. Go! Li Zhe roared and maneuvered the Kuan towards Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren was surprised to see that. Oh, I didn't expect you to be a summoner too. Just when he was about to distract himself from the Kuan, a silver-white figure appeared in front of him. A huge amount of light-based Daoist rhyme poured out like a flood, and a huge white shield appeared out of thin air. The Kuan collided with the shield, and a loud explosion was heard. The surrounding rainwater exploded. Lan Yu's face turned pale, but he still managed to withstand the impact of the Kuan. Master, I'll leave you to deal with the nine-headed snakelet. Leave this Empyrean walker to me. Chu Kuangren was shocked. Just when he was about to say something, he saw the determination on Lan Yu's face, so he nodded. Be careful then. Alright. The scepter of light appeared in Lan Yu's hand, and the silver-white armor covered his body. Dense light-based Daoist rhyme erupted once again, and his sapphire-like eyes stared at Li Zhe with a bone-chilling intent. Empyrean Walker, come. Show me what you've got. Oh, young Emperor Lan Yu, I know who you are. But how many moves do you think you can withstand against me? Li Zhe snorted and continued to maneuver the Kuan towards Lan Yu. Holy scorch! Without another word, Lan Yu channeled his spiritual power to the maximum, and a huge amount of white flames burned on the scepter before he smashed it. Lan Yu was sent flying, but the white flames also landed on the bestial soul. The bestial soul was entangled by the flames, and it let out a blood-curdling scream. Li Zhe, who was connected to the bestial soul, was shocked. This flame can burn a bestial soul. This is no ordinary flame. It contains a light-based Daoist rhyme that can purify everything. With that attack, Li Zhe began to take Lan Yu seriously. Both of them exchanged blows again. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren continued to attack the nine-headed snakelet with the four-season sword formation. Soon enough, his opponent had suffered unprecedented damage. Of the 9 heads, 3 had been chopped off. Chu Kuangren's mind moved, and a pitch-black chain suddenly appeared in his hand. It was the soul retriever that he had not used for a long time. Go! The soul retriever flew out and pierced through the sword formation. The 9-headed snakelet's strong physical body was useless against the soul retriever, which specialized in attacking souls. The hook pierced right through it. Then, the 9-headed snakelet, who was still in a daze due to its heavy injuries, suddenly felt a great sense of fear, and it let out a hysterical howl. This feeling, my soul, my sage spirit is leaving me again. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.